Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to TheoryCraft episode 29. How you guys doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm very punctual. Yes, I know I'm on time. That's what you guys can rely on here. You know, at least on Twitch. Maybe not on YouTube. It's not always on time. But on Twitch, you can rely on me being here a half an hour early. The timer will be there 30 minutes. And we'll be rocking and rolling by 1 p.m. PST every single time without failure. I don't think there's been a time actually that I have been late for this. I started a half an hour early once, and the interviews have sometimes been early, but it's always been on time. How am I doing? I'm doing good. Was a little bit tired, but I got a tea. My allergies would bother me, so I washed my face. I think I'm all good. I got a show later with my band. That'll be fun, and then I get home really late and wake up at 7 a.m. tomorrow to cast Gold Cup, 4 players. That'll be exhilarating. Yeah, Bidu's around. Bidu's soon to be off vacation. He'll be back to casting soon. We let him believe he is. Yes. All right. So yeah, human players. It's Human Day. Last episode was Undead Day. That was a fun episode, right? I enjoyed that. That was we went over the matches of Happy versus Focus. I assume I don't need to give spoiler alerts anymore, because that was a couple weeks ago now. But we rewatched Happy winning that grand finals for War 3 Champions, and that was fun. I hope to do more stuff like that in the future. It's just a matter of there being good timing for it. Also, the replays available. There's not always replays available, for instance, for the big Chinese tournaments, like WGL, stuff like that. I don't know how you'd get those replays. And like the Africa League, I don't know how you get those replays. So if I can get the replays and there's a tournament grand finals that's recent and there's something to learn, I'll definitely want to cover those in these episodes. Because the original idea for this show was, okay, there's going to be tournaments, and then I'm going to go over the replays from those tournaments week to week every time we have a new tournament. So ideally, I'd like to do that more often, but it just so happens that that's not always possible because of a lot of reasons. But that's what we're going to try to do. Okay, maybe not WGL, but there are some other tournaments. I forget what it was. I tried to get maybe it was Next. I think it was Next I tried to get replays for. It was one of those tournaments. Maybe not WGL. But regardless, that's the whole idea of the show, ideally. So it was really nice to be able to do that for War 3 Champions, and it worked out. There was a matchup I wanted to cover, and it happened to be Happy, who we can always learn from. So that was nice. I enjoyed that. And we've done it before. We sort of did it with that Sock Beastmaster style in the past. That was a brand new strategy that I had literally just saw the day of doing the episode. I literally changed the episode last minute. We covered that. So that's what it's all about. But today's episode will go back 3-4 weeks for these games. But that was fun. It's up on YouTube. You guys can go check it out. I think people more or less enjoyed it. And next week's episode, as always in the second episode of the month, is going to be community replay review. So you guys can submit your replays. You can email me at carson@backtowarcraft.com. You can email me there. Or you can join our Discord. You can go discord.backtowarcraft.com. You can join our Discord and join the TheoryCraft channel. That's the place where you can just ask me questions. Somebody was asking me this morning about just general matchup tips on Night Elf vs. Human. And I linked him the episode that we did on Night Elf vs. Human. And, so if you got questions or you want to submit replays for next week's episode, that's the place to do it. But if you want to just email me, if you don't use Discord, that's totally fine as well. I check my email every day. I drink tea with Carson, that's for sure, yeah. So that's what next week's episode, there's a couple parameters. Of course, 1v1 replays only for now. 1v1 replays only. And ideally not replays that are anything over 25-30 minutes, so that we can fit many replays in the same episode, because I like to do, as many people as we can. The last couple episodes, we've actually had to exclude a couple people just for time limits, and we've ended up doing 4.5-hour episodes on that before. So, ideally, 25 minutes and under if possible. If you got replays that are 15 minutes. For instance, the replay we're going to watch today, the first replay, is 12 minutes long. I learned everything for today's episode from that one single replay. We'll watch 3, but the first one, 12 minutes long, tons of stuff to learn there. So it doesn't always have to be long replays that we can learn from, that you can show us strategies. And it doesn't have to be a replay you lose either. I mean, if you want me to give you advice or chat to give you advice, people in the YouTube comments to give you advice, and you want to learn something to improve yourself, it's best to do that with a replay that you lose. But also, this is a medium to just showcase a strategy if you want to. We've had cool cheese strategies. We've had different stuff that people submitted. One guy was talking about, could I submit a Torn Chieftain first replay? Yeah, for sure. So if you want to showcase a strategy and we can talk about the viability of it, we could talk about, if we've seen it at the top level before, plenty of stuff to discuss. You can absolutely submit a replay with that purpose as well. Will you interview players for TheoryCraft anytime soon? Yeah, I've been trying to, I don't want to force the interviews at all. I think we did 5 interviews, and I really enjoyed all of them. And I've just been trying to think of who I want to interview next, and I wouldn't want to force the interviews. I really want to talk to people that I feel like I really want to talk to, and there's still plenty of people in the community that I think would be worthwhile talking to. Just a matter of scheduling and figuring it out. And I don't want to have to do interviews with a translator, so that excludes a lot of people as well. But there'll definitely be more interviews in the future, whether it be this month or definitely next month. We'll try to get an interview in, because I know some people definitely enjoy those. But yeah, I'm not gonna always force them in every single month, I don't think. But we'll always have episodes every Thursday, unless there's a big tournament on for those Thursdays. So don't worry. The longer the better. Yeah, 8-hour long community replay review episodes. All right, so that's last week's episode. That's next week's episode. Make sure to send me in your replays. People on the Patreon get priority for those replays. So if you're part of the Patreon, !Patreon in the chat, you can get priority for those replays, and I will do them first and foremost. And hey, you can even submit a replay that's over half an hour long, and I'll do it. Why not? I don't care. Got to be on the Patreon though, because I'm a shill. Twitch chat advice, KekW. Hey man, I last week, I think last week and the week before, there was stuff where I was like, guys, I don't know. Am I right? Am I wrong? Why is he doing this thing? There was something with the Night Elf versus Human episode where I was like, why is Moon doing this? And I forget who, but someone in the chat, maybe it was Save Orcas. He was like, this is why he did it. It was like, he did it because when he queued up his hero, he didn't want to deny that experience from his keeper or something like that. There's tons of stuff that I'm not sure on, and you guys help me out with. So we do it together. Don't make me quote my English teacher again, because I will. Okay, so today is Human Day. We're going to be covering yet again Human versus Night Elf. The last episode I did on this matchup was from the Night Elf's perspective. It was called Scratching the Surface of Night Elf versus Human. And the reason I titled it that was because this is a very deep matchup. There's a lot of build orders. So you can go 1 base, you can go 2 base, you can play lots of different heroes. For the Night Elf side, you can play Keeper, Warden, Beastmaster, Demon Hunter. That's probably it. For the human side, there's not a ton of variability when it comes to the opening here. You can go Archmage, Mountain King, but then there's Tower Rush and cheeses. But definitely, there's different all-ins on 1 base. There's different timings for when you play an expansion. Do you go tier 3? Do you stay tier 2? There's a lot of stuff going on in the Human versus Night Elf matchup. So we're going to be doing a few episodes on it. So we did one from the Night Elf side of things. Today we're going to be doing something from the human side of things, the most common strategy. And it's going to be more of a macro-based strategy. It's not going to be a 1 base cheese all-in, although there is a strat specifically for 1 base that I want to do. I just need to find the replays. Archmage, Beastmaster, 1 base, Rifle Caster all-in. I would love to do an episode on that eventually, but once the replays present themselves, I'll cover that. Until then, whatever. Yeah, today's going to be focusing on a 2 base strategy. And the difficulty of doing episodes on 2 base strategies is there's a lot going on. It's very difficult. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of details, and I'm sort of a type of person, maybe you guys can sort of connect with this. I'm the type of person that when I do something, whether it be in Warcraft or whatever elsewhere, I really want to have all the details worked out. I want to have everything systematically. Here's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And I want to know in a Warcraft game, for instance, I'm an orc player. Okay, when my bestiary gets up, what are the next 10 units I'm going to build from that bestiary, step by step by step, and why am I doing those things? And if I don't have those things worked out, every little tiny detail, regardless of those actually helping me to improve at the game, I get frustrated and it's not as fun. So I like having all the tiny, tiny details worked out. That might not be the most efficient way for me to learn, of course, but that's how my brain works. That's how I enjoy sort of trying to improve at these things. So for a human, because it's so chaotic all the time, especially when you're playing a macro 2 based style, it's been frustrating for me. So I try to find shortcuts when I'm studying human games, macro human games, of like, you know, what does my army look like? When do I do certain things? When do I build certain buildings? When do I get certain upgrades? So I try to work out all these shortcuts to try to remember these things and try to find like a systematic way of remembering these things. Which may or may not be, again, the best way to learn. Maybe there is, you know, a more efficient way to improve at things, but this is what I look for. And I was able to find a replay that actually helped me out a ton with this, which was literally the first replay that I found when I started downloading replays for today's episode. The first replay I downloaded and looked at, I organized them, you know, and then I watched one replay. I was like, oh, perfect. I learned a ton. I learned so much. So that's going to be the first replay we're going to watch. And it was really useful. It was really useful because it simplified this sort of scary 2-base macro style that we see from the human side against Night Elf. It simplified it a lot, actually. So that's what we're going to be going over today, and then we're going to increasingly get a little bit more loosey-goosey as we go further on with, you know, a little bit crazier games. Because, of course, when you're playing these crazy macro games, you're very much prone to mistakes. You're prone to taking a lot of harass. Of course, every human player knows about losing a ton of peasants. So things can get chaotic quickly, and you can't always stick to your rigid step-by-step plan like you may be able to with an undead, for instance, with a 1-base orc, for instance, where it's like, oh, I lost a fiend, I guess I just lose the game. Oh, I lost a grunt, I guess I just lose the game. I can't follow my step-by-step-by-step plan. I guess the game's just over. Whereas human, it's like, oh, I lost 6 peasants and 12 footmen. Oh, what's the next step? How do I follow this up? So, you know, there's two sides to this. Let's see, I saw some questions in chat. Hey, Carson, could I apply these learnings to 4v4 when I'm on the edge and next to a Night Elf opponent? Or is 1v1 and 4v4 too different? You probably could. And there's going to be some general tips in today's episode about, like, expanding and keeping your expansion safe and how to do that and how to macro behind it and how to build what we call sim cities, or at least what I call sim cities. So there's some things that'll be useful. Maybe not the strategy in general, but there's some things. Is Blood Mage viable? Can you use Flame Strike to harass the Night Elf workers on the trees? Yes, Blood Mage is viable. In fact, every single game that we're going to watch today, the human goes Blood Mage second. It's pretty good. There's other viable heroes. You can go Panda second, has been played a lot recently. Mount King second is played, although I don't entirely recommend it nowadays, but sometimes Beastmaster second on 1 base. The Night Elf sometimes goes Tinker second. Naga second is viable for both players. Yeah, we're going to see a lot of Blood Mage today. Not as a first hero, but as a second hero. Make sense? Any more questions before I show you what today's episode title is? A spicy title, I will say. A spicy title. But like I said, when I try to work things out rigidly in my head and try to find step-by-step things and easy ways to remember things, I make stupid titles like this. But if there's no more questions, we'll move on to today's episode. We good? Okay. Today's episode is called Noah's Ark Push vs. Night Elf. Well, versus Night Elf. Give us the goods. Proceed. Yeah, spicy. Yeah, Noah's Ark Push versus Night Elf. Now, I've never heard it called this before. This isn't the name for the strategy. It's not like this is Sky Push, you know? Noah's Ark's not a player. No one's ever said this before. It probably won't stick. But I know, I can tell you right now, this is how I'm going to remember this push from now on. This is how I'm going to remember it. Now, this has been called sort of the, like... See, the reason why I gave it this name is because it's been... It's given, like, a general name. Like, I hear top humans say... I was casting with Cruncher last week, or on Monday, and I was asking him, like, about the strategy, and we described it as, like, that 60-70 supply push against Night Elf when you're on 2 bases the human. And that's not the best name, really. That's not the best name. So, in watching this replay that I mentioned, that I learned a lot from, and we're going to be basing today's episode entirely on this one replay, I gave it this name. And it's a very, it's oversimplifying everything, but can anybody answer why I might call this push the Noah's Ark push? Does anyone have an idea? Does anyone have an idea? Yeah, Giorgio's definitely... I'll do some questions at the end, so you could definitely ask me that at the end. We make it the name. Yeah, we'll see if it fits. We'll see if it fits. You have two of everything. Two of everything. Beautiful. That's what's so beautiful. We end up, during this push, having 2 rifles, 2 mortar teams, 2 sorks, 2 priests, 2 breakers, and 2 heroes. We end up having 2 of everything, and that's the timing. Boom, boom, bam, 66 supply in this first replay. And we push. Of course, we're also going to have 1 flying machine and some leftover footmen. But you have 2 of everything. You have 2 of everything, and it makes it so easy, because the most difficult thing, at least for me, in playing human in the past, and, I'm not the best human player, but I have really enjoyed off-racing human, so I've tried to learn it. It makes it really, really easy to remember it. Okay, when am I pushing this Night Elf player? Well, the earliest that I can possibly get 2 rifles, 2 mortar teams, 2 priests, 2 sorks, 2 breakers, I can push. And also, it's like, what mixture of units am I supposed to get? Like, the question always is, how many breakers do I want? When do I stop producing rifles? How many mortar teams is too many? How many is too few? How many sorks do I need if they're massing bears? How many priests do I need against keeper as opposed to warden as opposed to demon hunter? Well, this cleans all that up, makes it really, really simple. You get 2 of everything and you go, go, go. And then there's also, you might be thinking, okay, this is a push. What if the push fails? What does my army look like later? We're going to cover that in a replay as well. We're going to cover that in the third replay. What does our army look like if we do need to transition into the late game if the push fails? Did you talk to Todd before you told me this advice? I did not talk to Todd. Did not talk to Todd. But don't worry, we're gonna be watching Chaemiko. So 2 hands, 2 feet. Yeah. No peasants. Okay, there's peasants. There's peasants as well. All right. Like I said, it's not the perfect name. It's not the perfect name. But it is a good memory tool for this sort of a timing. What time is it? It's 1:18 p.m. for me. So that's going to be today's episode. We're going to watch 3 replays. The first replay is going to be Chaemiko versus Colorful on Tidehunters. The second replay is going to be Sock versus LawLiet on Tidehunters. We'll see how Sock does it differently from Chaemiko. And our third and final replay will be what happens if it goes to the late game. We'll have Chaemiko versus Sini on Autumn Leaves. 2 Archmages? No, you'll have 2 heroes, though. I mean, it's not that rigid. We can't just have 2 gold peasants. I appreciate that, Wiz. Thank you. That's nice to hear. It's nice to hear. Okay. How was that for a long intro? 18 minutes? Not my best. Not my best. Is there anything else I need to cover? I think we can just jump into the first replay. Is there anything else? We talked about last week, next week, Human vs. Night Elf. We talked about macro games. We talked about the title. I think we could just jump right into it. I think we can. Now, this might even be the first replay, one that I have to restart a couple of times. There's a lot of details in a small amount of time, and it's going to be difficult for me to catch everything. I have notes here of everything going on, but I might not be able to show you guys everything in one pass through. So there might be times when I have to pause a lot. I might have to restart the replay at times, but I'll try to show you guys as much detail as possible, because I definitely understand that as a human player, especially as a beginner human player, it can get really overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff, like a lot of human players just don't even play 2-base because it's like, what the hell am I supposed to do? How many towers do I build? Do I get the improved lumber harvesting? Do I get masonry? How many footmen do I build? When do I get defend? It's a lot of stuff and overwhelming, so I'll try to, just like last week's episode, try to show you every single detail on the macro side of things. When you build units, what kind of units you build, how many of them, when do you get your blacksmith, when do you get your lumber mill. I'll try to show you guys all those details in this first replay, and then as we move on to replay number 2 and 3, we're going to ignore those details more and more and talk more about the overall map movement sort of side of things. Let me guess, it's 2 towers? No, I think he only gets 1. I think he only gets 1. If you got enough tea, I actually don't, but I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to put it to the side so it doesn't distract me anymore. Okay? There's that. It's done. It's done. It's over. Replay number 1. Chaemiko versus Colorful on Tidehunters. Here we go, everybody. You're going to hear some rally points. We're going to watch it from Chaemiko's point of view. Don't worry. Do you know your personality type? I've done a personality test. I don't remember, though. I also don't know what I would be on those, whatever those are called, those classifications. I'm not sure. I'm very introverted, though. And I'm very, I forget what the creative dimension is. So just standard human play. Nothing crazy, alright? Nothing crazy. He's going to block his base. You don't have to block your base, so it's actually not that big of a deal. And we're going to realize why it's not that big of a deal later on based on how we're going to play the mid game.
Job's done.
So it's going to be Archmage. This is going to be consistent throughout the day. No Mountain King, no Paladin, no Tinker first, nothing crazy. Just going to be Archmage.
Job's done.
This Footman's going to come out, and this Footman's going to go Scout. Could anybody touch on maybe what we're going to be looking for when we Scout with this Footman? This is something I would recommend doing in every matchup if you're a human player. I've coached some human players that actually don't go for the Scout Footman just because the multitasking is a little bit daunting. Like they don't want to, they're afraid to lose it. But I would say it's more important to go for the Scout and begin scouting with this Footman if you're a beginner human player than to just never do it. You kind of got to jump in the deep end, so to speak, with the multitasking of the Scout Footman. But what are we going to be looking for with this Footman? Early expansion, that's great. What he's creeping, where he's creeping. Importantly, yeah, where the Ancient War is going to be. Is it going to be here? I mean, there's some situations where it could be here. On other maps, this is going to be more important than this map. For instance, Autumn Leaves. Are they creeping their Wolf Camp? Or are they creeping the expansion first? Stuff like that. And first hero, of course, for sure. Are they going Warden, Demon Hunter, Keeper, Beastmaster, Priestess of the Moon? That's played against human sometimes. Are they going Panda first? That's played against human. Dark Ranger. There's so many starting heroes. And also importantly, since we're going to be going for an expansion, we need to keep the Footman alive, ideally long enough to see, are they going for 2 Ancient War Huntresses or not? So the Scout Footman sees a ton of stuff. And again, if you're a newer player, newish player, and you don't want to send the Scout Footman because not only do you not want to lose it, do you not want to do the multitasking, but you also don't know what you're scouting for, the more you do it, the more you're going to sort of figure out what you're looking for. But let's say as a basic level, just where is his Ancient War and what starting hero is he going for to start us off. And then past that, there's always more and more information we can gain. Very, very valuable to scout this Footman. If you're a higher level player, you're probably like, yeah, obviously. But if you're a low level player, maybe not, maybe not. So this is something that I've become a little bit of a broken record on stream is, oh, I wonder if he's going to expand. We'll wait and see for that 4th farm. Right, if you've listened to me cast, you've probably heard me say, oh, let's wait and see if he gets a 4th farm, then we'll be able to know if he's expanding or not. In this situation, Chaemiko's actually only going to build 3 farms. He's only going to build 3 farms. And this is a very specific expansion build. And I really, really like this build. I think this build is excellent. It's just going to work out that he's going to have 10 lumber peasants, 5 on gold. He's going to have his Archmage. That's going to make him 20 supply. And then he's going to have 5 Footmen. That's going to be 30 out of 30. And then he's not going to need a 4th farm, although he's going to get one this game for a different reason. He's not going to need the 4th farm, in fact, until his expansion is actually up. So the supply past 30 is going to be the expansion itself. And then he's going to be at 42. So you're not going to need a 4th farm. And this build is specifically made to get a very, very early expansion and to cut every sort of corner and have the perfect amount of lumber workers back at home, to have the perfect amount of lumber and gold to power build the expansion as early as you possibly can. So we're going to cut this 4th farm because we wouldn't get anything out of it either way, because we wouldn't be able to afford more peasants or more Footmen past 30 supply because we're trying to afford the expansion. So we'll take a look at this build order. So the Archmage is going to come out. Note, Chaemiko is going to only pull 3 militia. Why is he pulling 3 militia? Well, because we need to get our lumber count up so that we can afford the expansion when we go and creep it after this orange camp. So he's only pulling 3 militia because he wants these guys to be mining. He's going to try to, as best he can, keep 5 on lumber as long as he can. As long as he can. And this is going to be slightly different on every map, but as it happens on Tidehunters, this is the best way to do it. So he's going to creep this, and look how efficient. Look how efficient. He's creeping this, he gets Gloves of Haste. He's already calling 5 militia go to the expansion, because the point of this strategy is early expansion, as early as possible. So he pulls 5, syncs up perfectly with his Archmage to go to the expansion, and he's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then he's going to make a 5th peasant for lumber. And then he's going to have 5 on lumber. Before, when he was creeping this, he had 5 on lumber that he just pulled. And then he's going to make 1 more peasant, 1 more footman. That's going to put him at that clean 30 out of 30 supply that he'll stay at until his expansion is up. Very, very good build. DDD Cakes with the 6 months. Thank you, man. Half a year. Appreciate you. Good to see you. And then keep an eye on his gold and his lumber. His gold and his lumber. By the time these peasants run out of militia form. Because remember, you need a little bit of extra lumber, of course, to power build the expansion, right? It takes a little bit extra. This footman's just being annoying, and it's scouting for no Hunter's Hall, scouting for no Second Ancient War. He already saw the Keeper. A lot of things, a lot of things. So he finishes creeping the expansion, and he's very, very close to having enough gold. He's got enough lumber. He just needs to wait about 5-6 seconds to have enough gold for the expansion. An extremely early expansion. In the meantime, he's going to creep very safely nearby. Chaemiko wants to get level 3 Archmage as early as he can, but he's not going to go super far out. He's not going to take big risks to get it. So he's just going to come and creep this green camp. He's not going to, for instance, pull militia and try to creep this for an immediate level 3. He's not going to go all the way out of his way to creep this. He's just going to creep nearby his expansion, keeping the expo safe, but also slowly but surely getting up to level 3. And this is doable. I'll go back to me for a second. This is doable on every single map. If you think about it, this is on Tidehunters, doable. If you think of a map like Northern Isles, well, when you creep your expansion, you can go creep that green Murloc camp above or below your expansion. If you're on a map like Concealed Hill, well, for one, you already get level 3 at the expansion on Concealed Hill if nothing goes wrong, but you have 2 green camps very close to your expansion. On Amazonia, you're already going to be level 3, but you have that Berserker very close. Last Refuge, you have like 3 green camps close by, and the Knolls. Every single map gives you the ability, other than maybe Autumn Leaves. Autumn Leaves is a bit of a tricky one. That's probably the only one. Gives you the ability to creep close by to your expansion while you're keeping your expo safe to try to get Archmage level 3. So every map you can do this on, not just Tidehunters. So he's going to do this. And his goal is to get level 3 Archmage as early as possible, but he doesn't want to take tons of damage because we still want a very early expansion. And note, expansion comes up now. Look at the gold, look at the lumber, pretty clean. We're going to be power building it. 30 out of 30. And what this is 5 on lumber, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 on gold, obviously, 10. 5 building this, 15. Hero, 20. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 footmen. There's the 5th. 30 out of 30 supply. And this is what we generally stay at until our expansion is up. Very simple, right? 5 of everything. 5 on gold, 5 building the expansion, 5 on lumber, 5 footmen, and the Archmage.
Forces are under attack.
Getting closer. And what do you know? There's 1 more green camp available for us to get level 3. The Keeper comes in. And this is where things get a little bit rough. Like I said, with human, we can't always stick to our rigid plan because sometimes we just lose 8 peasants. So we lose 1 peasant. We're forced into building a farm. This is something Chaemiko does every game on this spawn. He builds his expansion in such a way that he can actually bring the peasants through here when the treants get summoned from these trees and build a farm to protect the peasants. and then he can cycle them back and forth and back and forth. This is something to think about as a human player, and every top human player does it a little bit differently. But how am I actually going to build my expansion to keep my peasants safe when I'm building it, and later on as well? But let's just note that he loses one peasant. How is he going to react to losing this one peasant? He's going to call one militia. If he loses two peasants, he's going to call two militia to bring them to start power building this. And he's just going to replace the peasant at his town hall. So every time he loses a peasant, he's going to cycle it with a militia and rebuild it at the main base. Very, very simple. In this situation, Chaemiko assumes he's going to lose at least two. He's already lost one. He thinks he'll probably lose about one more because the keeper's got it, another entangle. He's got maybe another set of treants if he doesn't want to use the entangle. And he's got decent health. So Chaemiko's going to pull two militia, and he's going to rebuild the peasant that he already lost. But he's actually only going to lose one peasant here. There's the peasant he just lost. Just very, very clean, right? In the meanwhile, it's just putting damage on the keeper. This is important to do. If you don't put damage on the keeper and he has full health, he just goes back home, gets full mana with the Moonwells, and comes back. Whereas if you put damage on him, he can't get full mana.
Job's done.
Note the two militia. And he built this farm. He doesn't actually need this farm, but he built it just because he was almost finished power building it in the defense. Now he defends. The keeper's low, has no mana. He's going to buy claws from the market. He's got the gold to do so. And he's going to go back to trying to creep level 3.
Job's done. Our forces are under attack.
Now, he begins building more footmen now and more peasants because he has this farm. But let's just think if he didn't get harassed, his expansion would already be done. So it would all line up perfectly if the expansion was harassed. If not, he just power builds a farm to defend his peasants and then to also start getting the peasants and the footmen earlier. It all just works out perfectly. How do you know it's safe to creep when the keeper might be nearby? Well, that's why he's creeping in such a way. The first camp he crapped, he pulled out here and crapped it, and then he was able to defend his expansion. See, we're only one screen away. And this camp, he's pulling, and he's creeping right here. Again, not even a screen away. We can see our expansion. So he's creeping safe. He's not going to go and try to get level 3 from, like, this camp, for instance. He's not going to creep, like, this camp. He's not going to call militia and creep this, because then he would be, like, 4 or 5 screens away, and he would take serious damage. So he's always creeping safely to level 3, and every map allows you to do this. There's very few maps in the pool. I think Autumn Leaves might be the only one, if you take the easy expansion, that you cannot creep like this to get level 3 after your initial expansion creep. Assuming you don't get any big last hit stolen or something like that, right? He's going to get level 3. Now here's a question. I know I'm pausing a lot, but like I said, this is a very dense replay. There's a lot going on. Do you think you could do this 3-farm Expo versus Undead or instead of 4-farm? See, okay, Emerald, that's a really good question. And I got another question for you guys after this. But yeah, the thing about versus Undead, the reason this doesn't necessarily work versus Undead is because versus Night Elf, we have a lot of time early on because the Night Elf is going to Ancient War creep right away. And most of the time, the Night Elf is going to creep at least level 2, if not sometimes level 3, before harassing us. Whereas Undead, a lot of the time they're either going to straight harass us or creep one very small camp and then come to harass us. So the harass is very early. Like, Undead tries to harass you while you're creeping the expansion a lot of the time. And they continue to harass you consistently. Whereas Night Elf comes, casts a set of treants and runs away. So you kind of have to be even more defensive. So, I don't know. I haven't seen humans do this against Undead, and I don't think it would work necessarily. I think it only works because Night Elf tends to give human more space. Okay, now another question for you guys. Look at the positioning we're in. We got level 3 Archmage. Our expansion's close to being up. Note we're building more peasants. We're going to want 8 peasants at our main base. This is going to be the last peasant he builds. Now we have 3 options. We have 3 options in this position in the game. Okay. Here's an A, B, and C for you guys. A, B, and C. Do we... Let's see if these all fit on my notepad. This might not all fit. Let's see. Let's do... Do we A, creep contested camps. So that would be like going to creep the shop, maybe stealing away the staff and the dust, pressuring the Night Elf off contested camps, you know, and trying to get map control through that. Maybe taking the consumable at the marketplace, something like that. Contestable camps. Or do we run across the map and trade every footy to protect our expansion? That would be like running to the Night Elf's base and trying to just maybe damage some Moonwells, but really we're just making space for ourselves, or maybe running to their expansion and doing the same. Or do we creep safe to our expansion? That would be, for instance, creeping like our lab and trying to get a Shredder or a Zeppelin later on, preparing ourselves for the long macro game. There's 3 options. B, always B. That's why you're a strong human player right there, Hippo. B, no-brainer. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. B is the correct answer. B is the correct answer. Yeah, this is going to be very apparent in this replay. Now, Chaemiko gets level 3. So let's recap a little bit what we've done so far. We did our 3 farm expansion, right? With the 5, 5, 5, 5, 5 on lumber, 5 power building the expansion, 5 footmen, right? And 5 on gold, whatever. We got our expansion up. After our expansion's up, we're going to start producing more footmen. We're going to try to get up to 8 peasants in the main base mining lumber, and another 2 to 3 at our expansion, about 11 in total on lumber. We get our level 3 for the Archmage. We bought Claws of Attack. We defended the harass successfully. Now what Chaemiko is going to do, literally until his tier 2 is done, is he's going to run at Colorful and essentially sacrifice footman after footman after footman. And he's going to lose a ton of footmen. Now, he's not going to kill anything. He's going to lose, I have this written down, he's going to build 12 footmen. He's going to lose 7 of them. He's also going to lose his town portal. And he's going to kill... How much do you think he's going to kill? How much do you think he's going to kill? He's going to sacrifice his town portal and 7 footmen. He's going to sacrifice a potion of healing. He's going to use a clarity, a regen scroll. Oh, I said 0 already. Yeah, he's going to kill nothing. He's going to kill nothing. And you know what? The second replay we're going to watch, when we see Sock do this similar strategy, he's going to build 14 footmen, and he's going to lose 12 of them doing the same thing. He's going to build 14 footmen, and he's going to lose 12 of them. Whereas this game, Chaemiko's going to do a little better. He's only going to lose 7 in his town portal. Just 7. Now, why is this worth it? Why is this the right play instead of A or C? 1.5k gold. The reason why this is the right play, I was talking to Mr. Scythrin about this last night in Hitman's chat. And correct me if I'm wrong. This is my understanding of it. So yes, you're buying time, but importantly and crucially, you're making space for your expansion. So you're sacrificing footmen because it's either footmen or peasants. Either you're running at them and you're losing footmen in their base or at their expansion to entangle, or they're running across the map and killing peasants with treants and archers. So you're either going to lose footmen or peasants. Choose your poison. And of course, if you're losing peasants, you're losing more than just the peasants. You're losing lumber economy, gold economy, and then you cannot hit this timing because the end goal of the strategy is to hit our Noah's Ark timing. We can't hit that, so we might as well lose the footmen instead. The cool thing about this, though, the cool thing about losing a ton of footmen, and you might be asking yourselves, how many footmen are we going to build? We're literally going to non-stop produce footmen until tier 2 is done. So depending on how late our tech is, this could be 14 in the case of next game, or it could be 12 in this game. 12 is going to be the number of footmen we have before our tier 2 is done. The cool thing about this is, one, we can afford to continuously produce footmen, and we still have enough gold at tier 2 to hit our timing. So essentially, as long as our economy is uninterrupted as the human player with this strategy, we have enough gold and lumber to continuously produce everything we want for the entire game, regardless of losing a bunch of footmen or not. The second thing is, we're only actually feeding experience. We're going to try to deny the footmen as much as possible, all the footmen we lose, of course we're going to. But we're only feeding a keeper. And Keeper is really good early on at killing footmen, but later on, once we have the spell, once we have control magic on our breakers, which we're going to have, it's not actually that good. It doesn't matter if it's a level 3 Keeper later on, or a level 5 Keeper. Level 6 Keeper might be a different story, let's be fair. But if we feed the Keeper from level 3 to level 4 off footmen, but we don't lose any peasants at our expansion, we're totally cool with that. We're totally fine. So the footman lives are for a reason, but that reason is not to actually do any damage ourselves, it's just to not take damage economically. And we're going to see this be beautifully done. So it might look a little stupid sometimes. You might see human players lose 15 footmen in the early game, but it is for a purpose. It is for a purpose. But that's so depressing. Yeah, fair. Do I need to lose footmen in my opponent's base? Like I just send him the creeps to save time. Fair, fair. So that's what we're going to see. That's what we're going to see from Chaemiko. He's going to go across the map. He's going to get a couple gold mine cancels on the expansion, to be fair to him. That is damage. But he's not going to kill anything. He's not going to kill any archers. I don't think he kills any wisps. He's just going to buy time. So this is what we're going to see now. So level 3. He's going to go to the shop to try to get dust, but I think it gets stolen. And we'll try to keep an eye. We're going to try to keep an eye on both what he's doing with the footman execution-wise, but also, importantly, what he's doing macro-wise, because I think that could be the really confusing thing. The idea with these footmen is, of course, to... One, if possible, you want to be canceling the expansion, which isn't really possible now. If we were to run straight cross, we probably could, but as we can see, the army keepers about to level 3, it's right here. But we want to be canceling Moonwells, we want to be canceling Tree of Lives if possible, we want to be canceling Hunter's Hall, we want to be canceling Lures later on. But past that, we want to be canceling the Entangled Gold Mine if possible, killing Wisps. Past that, we just want to put damage on the Keeper, put damage on the Archer, to lower the amount of Moonwell mana possible. The lower mana the Keeper has, the less potential later on to be harassed by a Keeper level 3. So that's going to be the main thing. Just keeping the Keeper occupied, putting damage on the Keeper. We don't necessarily have to cancel Lures, but that'd be nice. That'd be a nice bonus. Canceling Moonwells, Lures, maybe canceling the Tree of Life at times. We're going to be super ahead if we can cancel the Tree of Life. But a good Night Elf is not going to allow us to cancel their Tree of Life a lot of the time. Because that should be the whole point of the Night Elf's opening strategy, is to not let this Tree of Life get canceled, similar to what it is against Undead. So we're really just going to be putting damage. It's quite simple. It's quite simple. But, you know, the micro makes it a little bit more difficult, of course. We're just buying time. Arcane Tower comes up. Our Tier 2 comes up as soon as we can afford it. We're going to see this at varying times, but this is the most clean. I want this replay to be the benchmark macro-wise. Not execution, but like cognitively the benchmark of like how to do things in what order. I think this is like a very, very good just general rule of thumb game for how to macro. 8 peasants in the main base. Tech as early as he can. And then he's going to get 3 more at the expansion. I think he's going to get 3 more. He's going to get either 2 or 3 more. So we're going to end up with about 10 or 11 lumber peasants. Now, this can switch depending on how many peasants we lose. Remember, Chaemiko only lost actually 1 peasant to the harass, so his lumber isn't that hurt this game. His lumber's pretty clean. And the cool thing about this is we're going to tech at 8 at home, and then if we need more, we can just build them at the expansion. So we're going to get 2 or 3, but if you need to get a 4th at the expansion, you can. We're also going to get a lumber mill, and Chaemiko this game isn't going to get improved lumber harvesting when he gets his lumber mill, but he could if he needed to. It's only at, what, 100 gold, is it? Is it 120? 100 gold, I think, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's very cheap. It's not an investment you want to make, but if you need to, you totally can. You can build an extra peasant here, and you can get improved lumber harvesting if you need to. But if you don't take a lot of lumber damage, like Chaemiko hasn't this game, he only lost 1 peasant, which he replaced, you pretty much just need 10 peasants on lumber, 8 in the main, 2 at the expansion, and then you can afford everything you're going to need to afford. Note, he's also not going to get defend because the footies, I think this is the point for it. He's not going to get defend because the footies just die to level 2 entangle anyway. And the keeper's about to be level 2 in 2 footman kills. Or level 3. The entangle's about to be level 2, the keeper's about to be level 3. So the footies just kind of die regardless of defend. So investing that 100 lumber, and importantly, investing that 60 seconds to get defend is not worth it in this game for Chaemiko. I think that's the argument to be made against defend. Because a footman takes 28 seconds to build, and defend takes 60 seconds to research. So you're researching defend, which might not help you a ton against entangle level 2, and you're going to have 2 less footmen for researching it. And 100 less lumber. Is it 100 or 150? I think 100 less lumber, which is a ton with this sort of a strategy because we're so low on peasants. We're only getting 10 lumber peasants on 2 base. That's a tiny, tiny amount of peasants. I think I covered everything. I think that's everything. So we're going to get the lumber mill very soon. We're also going to get our shop very soon. And we're just going to continuously build footmen as we can sort of afford them. More footmen. And we're going to lose a lot of footmen. And we're going to kill nothing.
Our forces are under attack.
But a lot of the time, I'll tell you this, guys. A lot of the time, you're going to kill like 5 archers here. You're going to cancel both lores. Like, every night elf, almost every night elf in the world is not colorful. Well, in fact, every other night elf in the world is not colorful.
Our forces are under attack.
So we're going to lose a lot. Eventually, when we can afford it, we're going to get our shop at our expansion. We're going to get a lumber mill in our main base. And we're also going to get a blacksmith. Those are the 3 things we need to remember to get before tier 2. Lumber mill, shop, blacksmith. Shop and blacksmith go at the expansion. Lumber mill goes in the main base. This is pretty much how every human player does it. Could be moon. Yeah, it could be moon. And note, just damage on the keeper. This is all Moonwell mana. Let's look. He's got missing 300 mana, 400 health. He's got to go to the Moonwells to recover this. Oh, what do you know? He doesn't have enough Moonwell mana to get full health or full mana currently. This is why damage on the keeper is very good. More important than damage on the archers. What if you miss the timing to cancel lore? Not important to actually cancel lores. It's nice, it's a bonus, but it's not important. Okay, here's the Arcane Vault. See, it's not even that crucial to have this perfectly timed. It's just as soon as Chaemiko remembers, oh, I need to macro, he just immediately puts all 3 up at the same time. I get my lumber mill, I get my shop, then we see he built his blacksmith all at the same time. He went to the main base first, and then went to the expansion and just got all 3. So he waits until he can afford these 3 buildings while still producing footmen. Note, he's got 3 footmen queued up. So he's got enough of a bank now to get these 3 crucial buildings without cutting footman production. But as soon as he remembers, he just goes, okay, those 3 buildings. And that's it. That's going to be all he worries about before he hits tier 2. That's going to be all the macro side of things. There's going to be no improved lumber harvesting, no upgrades, no more towers. He's not going to get defend. He's just going to build footmen. And this is all he needs to worry about. Simple, right? Just these 3 buildings. And he continues to just throw footmen into the base. If he can cancel this Hunter's Hall, great, but he can't right now because he doesn't have a water elemental. So he's just going to be content with continuing to do damage. Keeper comes back. Note he doesn't have full mana because of the damage we put on him earlier. And every time we get a footman entangled, it is dead after, I think, 2 auto attacks. Cancels the gold mine. That's good. That's some damage. Forces some detonates. Okay, so I was wrong. He did force some detonates.
Job's done.
Which is important, but we can see the lumber of colorful is really, really good right now, so. And we're going to be forced into town portal. So there's the TP. Note, lumber mill, shop, blacksmith are all up. And tier 2, almost done. We're going to focus on the main base once we hit tier 2. We're going to TP back now and heal up our footmen. And then what do you think we're going to do when we heal up our footmen? Yeah, he didn't lose a single archer. His micro was insanely good here. He did detonate 3 wisps and got his entangled gold mine canceled. That's the damage that he did take. But he killed 7 footmen here and forced the TP. He's already killed 7 footmen. As you see, he wasn't level 3 before the harass. Some of them were denied. I think 2 of them were denied. So not even Chaemiko had the best denies here.
Upgrade complete.
So he's going to heal up. He's going to get mana. And he's just going to go again. He's just going to push again. Because he's still buying time. If he doesn't push right now, if he doesn't heal up and go across the map again, there's a chance the keeper comes across map. Maybe he goes and gets a clarity from his main base. Maybe there's a bit more Moonwell mana. He can get more mana. He comes across and maybe he cancels like an Arcane Sanctum. Maybe he catches a rifle out and entangles and kills it. Maybe he summons Treants and kills lumber peasants. Right? Why is it lagging? Shouldn't be lagging. Maybe he does those things, right? So that's why we have to immediately go back again, because just because we've hit tier 2, we're not out of the woods yet. Yeah, replay. It's a replay. Yeah. We're not out of the woods yet, because if we were to get harassed right now, say he picks up a panda or a tinker, and he comes to our main base and kills 4 lumber peasants and slows down our arcane sanctums, that's very bad for us. So we have to go back again for the same reason we did earlier. Right? So arcane sanctums are going to come up. He's going to power build them with 2 peasants. And he's also going to build a blood mage. And he's going to build 3 farms and a workshop. So this all happens at the same time. Similar to like when we remembered, oh, I need my lumber mill, my shop, and my blacksmith all at the same time. And we just did them all at the same time. When we hit tier 2, we need to remember all these things. We need to remember. It's a lot. It's a lot. This is what we need to do when we hit tier 2. We need 2 sanctums with 2 peasants each. And the earlier we do this at tier 2, the better. So we immediately want to do all this. We need to get a blood mage. Or our secondary hero, sure. We need to get a workshop. And we need to build 3 farms. We need to do all that immediately at tier 2. That's everything. So as soon as we hit tier 2, the faster we're able to do that, the better off we're going to be. And I'm glad I could kill some time for you. That's nice to hear, man. I'm glad. That's everything we need to do at tier 2 when we hit there. 2 sanctums with 2 peasants each. Get a blood mage, get a workshop. We don't need to power build a workshop. Don't worry about it. And we need to get 3 farms. How much is that golden lumber? That's a good question. That's a good question. Well, if we look into the replay right now, it's actually the perfect amount. So this is the difficulty of human, but if we look at the lumber that Chaemiko has, he's actually got the perfect amount of lumber. He's building the 2 farms here. 1, 2, 3. He got his blood mage. He's power building the arcane sanctums and the workshop, and he has 30 lumber left over. What is that 30 lumber for? Well, you need a little bit of extra to power build it. So this is where that sort of, do I get a 12th peasant? Do I get improved lumber harvesting? We have the gold to get it, right? This is where those sort of things come into play. This is what makes these top humans so good, is because they can perfectly calculate, do I need to build 1 more peasant, or can I stick to just 10? Or did Chaemiko get 11 here, actually? There's 4. There's 8, 9, 10. So he actually got 11 without improved lumber harvesting. So 11 peasants in this game with losing 1 earlier and only getting 1 arcane tower and no defend. This worked out to be the perfect amount of lumber. Right? And note, if we would have gotten defend this game, we wouldn't be able to afford this workshop for a while. Isn't he low lumber for this moment? He needs 70 more for second hero. He's already got his second hero queued up. And he's going to have probably, yeah, he's going to get 30 more here. A couple peasants still have lumber. So he's going to end up with probably about 60 or 70 by the time these arcane sanctums are done. Which is important because he's going to need 70 by the time these are done. And then as I pointed out, we're just going to heal up and we're going to go right back. So yeah, this is the macro. No rifles yet. Our lumber's a bit low. And look at the gold even, too, because we just healed up as well. I'm just going to go right back. Oh, we're losing footmen. Oh, no, we're losing footmen. Doesn't matter.
Our forces are under attack. Job's done. Job's done.
Arcane Sanctums come up. And we got pretty close. We might have to wait like a second to have enough lumber. But we'll be fine. 1,200 gold and about 400 wood. Was that where we were at? Yeah, that's probably a good ballpark. And now this is another cool little this is another like detail that I thought was neat from Chaemiko. A lot of the times you'll wait for 2 priests. Thank you, I appreciate that. A lot of the time you'll wait for 2 priests, right? Like just like if you're orc and you want to go shamans into adept training for the shamans to get lightning shield, you'll get 2 shamans and then you'll get adept. And then you'll get your 3rd and 4th shaman after that. Similar with priests, you want to get 2 priests and then adept. Okay, well this is interesting. Adept takes 60 seconds to research. And priests take 30 seconds to build each. So what Chaemiko does, and this might seem like a stupid small detail, but it just cleans everything up in my head and makes everything easy to understand. He just gets adept at one sanctum, and then he builds 2 priests at the other sanctum. And this means by the time his adept and 2 priests are done, he can just go on to the next thing. He's already got adept, and he's already got those 2 priests that he's going to need for the push. So one sanctum does the adept, and the other sanctum just queues up two priests right away. Super clean. Super clean. And that's what you need the lumber for right away. There's the priest, there's the adapt, this arcane sanctum will build the next priest, and they'll actually be done at exactly the same time. I know you said you skip early defend, but is this always the case, or at any times when defend is helpful, is this the strat? Or is it so much about lumber starvation? I think defend is valuable if there's different, you can be delayed by different amount of time. So this game, for instance, we only lost 1 peasant. So this is a very good game in terms of economic damage. We haven't taken a lot at all. But if we take more and more economic damage and our tech is delayed further, then we're actually going to have probably more lumber in the long run because our tech is going to be later. So we could actually afford to squeeze out defend in those cases. And the third replay we're going to watch today, Chaemiko's actually going to get defend. It's a different map against a different player, with more damage being taken economically. But in this game, because it was so clean, all Chaemiko's focused on is I need to hit a very, very tight, clean, quick timing. Yeah? Again, potion being forced. So much is being put into this harass, but if we look at the economy, then we can still continuously produce units.
Our forces are under attack. Job's done.
Nope, we still haven't even killed a foot or killed an archer. Yeah, this will be up on YouTube tomorrow morning. So about less than 24 hours from now, probably about 22 hours from now, it'll be up on YouTube. We generally try to upload things 24 hours after we live stream them. Okay, so let's pause again. This replay is only 12 minutes long, so forgive my pausing, but there's a lot going on. So, 1 priest is already out. Here's that 1 priest. The second priest is coming out. This adapt will be done on time. And Chaemiko's going to wait till about... He's going to wait till about 1,300 gold to break upkeep. He's already got the farms for the 66 supply that he needs. And then he's going to break upkeep. He's going to go for... This is going to be the order of things from each of these. This is going to be the order of things from each of these. He's going to build a flying machine. Why might we build a flying machine, guys? Before our mortar teams. For one, it's very, very quick, but what value do we get from a flying machine? Because that's going to be the first thing we build from our workshop. At least that Chaemiko's going to. I don't think Sok does it, but Chaemiko does. Why might we build a flying machine from our workshop before mortar teams? Yeah, it gives you it's a scout, which is nice. It gives you true sight, so you can use shadow meld. But importantly, and this is going to come into play for the third replay, it can give you high ground position. So if you want to sort of siege the expansion or maybe build towers close by to an expansion, you can put the flying machine over the trees and you actually give your mortar teams more space to attack because it gives you vision if you're attacking at nighttime, which is going to come hugely into play in replay number 3. So 1 flying machine can get a ton of value. It's well worth getting all the time. So that's going to be what we're going to get from the workshop. We're going to get 1 flying machine and then 2 mortar teams. This is where the Noah's Ark comes in. 1 flying machine, 2 mortar teams. We're going to get 2 riflemen and then long rifles. We already got our 2 priests. The second one's coming out. After the second priest is out, we're going to get 2 sorks. And then we're going to get 2 breakers. And then we're going to push. 2 priests with adapt, 2 sorks without adapt, 2 rifles with long range, 1 flying machine, 2 mortar teams. Whatever footmen we have left over. And we're going to push. We're going to push. We're going to part the Red Sea and we're going to push. Let's note that also Chaemiko's going to want to get a heal scroll before pushing, and he's also going to get +1 attack for rifles. These aren't essential. The heal scroll's essential. The +1 attack, not hugely important. So that's what we're going to see. We'll keep an eye on it. None of this going on right here is too important. What's important is that he's keeping him busy. And also what's important from the side of Chaemiko is that he's actually forced a Naga. Why did he force a Naga? Well, because if Colorful had gone for a Panda or a Demon Hunter this game, because of the amount of pressure the Footmen have put on him, he wouldn't be able to creep anything. Because Chaemiko is just constantly on top of him. He's lost a lot of footies for it, but he's forced a subpar secondary hero. Panda level 3 would be great, Demon Hunter level 3 would be great, but he just wouldn't have the space to creep. And this is a good best case scenario for the human. Second Priest is out, 2 Sorks. First Flying Machine is out, then we're going to build 2 Mortar Teams, 2 Rifles queued up. After this we'll have long rifles. And then after we have our 2 of everything on our boat, past that, while we're pushing, you might be thinking, okay, what do I build while we're pushing? All Chaemiko's going to do is just continually reinforce with breakers. He's going to have his 2 Mortar Teams, 2 Rifles, 2 Priests, and 2 Sorks, and then he's just going to continuously build breakers past that point until the push is over. And if he wins on the push, great. If he doesn't win on the push, we'll talk later about what sort of army he goes into after that. Here he's going to get the heal scroll I mentioned that he needs. And the Potion of Invulnerability. That's more of a luxury. Oh, Adept is already done because we got it super early. +1 also on the way. And notice, as soon as we let up the pressure, look what Colorful did. As soon as we let up the pressure, he ran straight across the map to start trying to kill stuff. This is what Night Elves do. This is what the Keeper is good at. This is what the Naga is good at. Is it enough? 2 Priests? Later on, we'll get more. But with this push, it is enough, yes. And I don't want to say this isn't like, it's just a funny name for it, and this replay is a good, simple example of a really good, well-timed and executed push. But there's definitely games where humans might get 3 rifles before pushing. Maybe they'll get 3 priests. Maybe they'll get 3 sorks. Maybe they'll only push with 1 mortar team. Maybe they'll go 2 barracks. So there's definitely variations, and it's not to say if you don't get 2 of everything, you're going to lose the game. There's space. In fact, this is going to be the only replay we're actually going to see that rigid of 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. The next replay, we're going to have 3 rifles before pushing. The replay after that, we're going to have 3 sorks before pushing. So there's wiggle room, absolutely. This is just a simple way of remembering what's the bare minimum you need to go for the push. Yeah, like if you lose more peasants in the early game, maybe you'll push a little bit later, so you'll have more rifles or more mortar teams or more breakers, right? Here's the second mortar team, here's the long rifles, here's the first 2 breakers coming out, and he calls 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 peasants from the main base. He keeps 1 on lumber over here and 4 on lumber over here. He's got 5 on lumber. This can vary, but you definitely want to have a little bit of lumber income. And look, he's 66 supply. He's building farms to go above 66 supply, but look at his gold. He's got 100 gold and 170 lumber. He has literally spent everything. He spent everything. This is as strong as he could possibly be. He's got a heal scroll. He's got illusions. He's almost level 2 blood mage. He's got adept. He's got every unit he wants in his army. And he's pushing with militia. He's got everything he could possibly have. And the expansion, let's not forget, was very, very early. This is as clean as timings get right here. This is as clean as timings get. And here's the timing. 10.5 minutes. We're at the Night Elf with 66 supply. Let's just look really quick also. Oh. That's beautiful how that works out, eh? We have another 30 seconds to play with before Master Training's online for the Bears. Won't always be true. But in this case, we're hitting the perfect timing. Absolutely perfect. Regardless, though, we're still up by 15 supply.
Research complete.
And just remember, just breakers behind this. Just breakers. Now, let's say we wanted to, like, start sieging from the low ground. Like here. Maybe we wanted to set up, like, towers right here. Or maybe towers right here. Right? And start attacking slowly from back here. The flying machine could be over here. Or the flying machine could be over here. And give full vision of the expansion while we set up passively back here. This is a very common play. And this is what the flying machine, the single flying machine, allows us to do. This is a situation where having defend might actually be nice, is in this push. Early on it wouldn't be great, but right here, having defend would be very useful. But it's just not something we could fit in, really. And behind this, more breakers. See, his farm's finished, the 2 farms he built over here, immediately into more breakers. Is he building anything else? No, just more breakers, because look at his gold, guys. Look at his gold! He can literally only afford right now to build 2 breakers at a time. It's just so perfectly executed. Everything works out perfectly. Yeah, you still get the miss chance if you're attacking uphill, so which is why this might not be the best play, but just as a for instance. And there's, you know, the Night Elf at times is going to be more prepared than this. He might have a level 3 panda, he might have more bears by now. But this is about as good as games go. This is about as good as games go for a human against a Night Elf with this build. I don't think it could go any better for Chaemiko. And let's just look at the army really quick, just to reinforce again. There's 2 priests, 2 sorks, 2 breakers, 2 rifles, 2 mortar teams, and the peasants. All the footmen are dead, and the peasants. And what do you know? 2 breakers reinforcing. What do you know? He's going to build 2 more breakers with the 500 gold he has left over. And GG's about to be called. We've saved the world, guys. We've saved the world. We're going to repopulate. Oh, more breakers. Yeah, LawLiet-esque, the strategy. Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit different. It's not unheard of, the strategy Colorful's doing, but no matter what he did here, I don't think it would have worked. If he went for a Panda second, if he went for a Demon Hunter second, I don't think he would have held this. Now, how cool is that? Is that enough of a replay to base an entire episode over, or what? God, that's a great replay. My God. That is a good replay. That is a really good replay. One of the best. That was one of the best replays. And the beautiful thing about it, it wasn't even perfect. It wasn't even perfect. The macro, there was a lot of macro errors. And by macro errors, I mean mechanical macro errors. So there's 2 sides of macro, right? There's mechanically what we do. How quickly do we build units? How much downtime between unit cycles do we have in production? There's that, the mechanical side. But there's also the other side, which is the cognitive side. When do I build my priest? When do I get adept for my priest? How many footmen do I build? That's the cognitive side. So the mechanical side was sloppy for Chaemiko, but the cognitive side was totally perfect. Absolutely flawless cognitively. I think that's a decent way to put it. Maybe there's a better way to categorize it, but what's the easiest way to mess up this build? I think the easiest way to mess up the build would be to take too much damage economically. So there's 2 stages of the game which are very important, I would say. When the Keeper initially comes to harass, remember when Chaemiko power built that farm to protect his peasants, which is why the most important thing in the early game for the strategy, I would say, is 1, to practice creeping the expansion, because not all expansions, in fact, every other expansion in the game is more difficult than Tidehunters. So practicing literally creeping the expansion against the computer is very helpful. Another thing to practice is, how do I build my expansion? Where do I put the town hall? Where do I put my tower? Is there a place I can put a tricky farm to protect the peasants against treants? And how later on do I place my blacksmith and my shop and my farms to further reinforce my expansion? Those are the details to work on so that you don't take a ton of economic damage, so that your expansion has peasants mining for as long as possible, so that your lumber is as cleanly mined as possible, should I say. That's where it can go wrong, is if you take too much damage, which is why I think practicing the first 5 minutes of the game is important. The first 5 minutes. Yeah, I think a good way, Climbmore, to practice that sort of thing, Climbmore said, need to practice creeping the expo camp while Keeper of the Grove plus archers are attacking, is to just find somebody even skill with you, and just be like, do you mind just literally running at me while I creep an expansion over and over again? Same thing as when you're against undead. Would you mind just Death Knight harassing my Concealed Hill expansion creep? I'm going to try to creep it without getting any coil last hits or stuff like that. And if you nail that down, even if it's not perfect, if you can get it down to, like, I lose a maximum of 4 peasants, past 4 peasants is getting a little iffy, but like a maximum of like 4 peasants, you're in a really good spot. And let's also remember that even if you lose a few more peasants than Chaemiko did here, you're also going to kill a lot more than 0 archers against the Night Elves that you're playing. You're probably going to kill 3 archers. You're probably going to cancel the expansion once or twice, his counter expansion. You're probably going to cancel the lores. He's probably going to lose his keeper at some point to the harass. Like, you know, Chaemiko only lost 1 peasant, but he also didn't kill a single archer or cancel any buildings, right? So it goes both ways. Similar to like when we analyze Happy replays and we say, okay, Happy's going to micro perfectly here. But so is his opponent. I mean, it's not like Foggy has bad micro when we're analyzing their games. It's not like Focus had bad micro last week. It goes both ways with these things, right? So even though you might take more damage when you're creeping your expansion, so is your opponent. I really wonder with those archers, Panda or DH would have worked much better, though. We're going to see both. We're going to see both Panda and Demon Hunter in our next 2 replays. So you won't have to wonder. And, spoiler alert, they will work much better. So as I said, I want that replay to really be the benchmark. Like, if ever you wonder about this strategy, you should go watch replay number 1's analysis again. These next 2 replays, they're going to be useful for late game follow-ups and what if we take a little bit of extra damage. But they're not going to be as perfect clear-cut of an example as replay number 1 is. Right? So that's going to be our benchmark. And we're going to see some different stuff in replay 2. Like, we're going to see more rifles before pushing. We're going to see a later push. We're going to see even a different creep route from Sock. Which is all fine and viable and beautiful, and he's a great player, but Chaemiko did it best in replay 1. Remember that. He did it best. So here's replay number 2. Sock versus LawLiet, also on Tidehunters. As we load up. Here we go. And this is a cool replay. I wanted to show this to you. We'll focus less on the macro details because we really covered those a ton in the first replay. That's why I paused probably 60 times, because we covered every single pretty much detail of that game. So we're going to focus more on like the map movement and like how he's pressuring and stuff like that in this game. But Sock's going to do a different build order this game. He's going to do a different approach to this sort of expansion play. Chaemiko went for the very, very early expansion. Sock is going to do a little bit of a later expansion, but with an earlier level 3. And these are both viable. These are both viable. We'll talk about why this might be better in some situations. But still, it's going to start exactly the same. Going to start exactly the same. This is LawLiet, by the way, the Night Elf opponent down here. This is Mr. LawLiet. In this game, it's going to be Demon Hunter second from LawLiet. So we saw a Naga. We're going to see a Demon Hunter this game. In the third game from Sini, we're going to see a Panda.
Job's done.
So again, this Footman is going to go Scout. For all the same reasons it scouted for last game. That doesn't change. Oops. I have to remember that if I tab out, it pauses the replay sometimes. So, third farm. This game, we're actually going to see 4 farms from Sock, and we'll talk about why he's going to do 4 farms. But he's still going to start with this creep initially, and he's going to pull. Remember last game, Sock, or Chaemiko rather, only pulled 3 militia right away. That was to keep his lumber on par with the gold so he could get the expansion very early, and we saw how well that worked out. This game, he's going to pull 4, because it's not going to be as important. That's right, yeah, that's what he's going to go for, yes. So he's going to pull 4 because the lumber economy isn't that big of a deal, but still. Yes, that's exactly right. That's what he's going to do. Positive attack, that always helps.
Our forces are under attack.
Footman going to see the keeper, all that good stuff. Sees he's going to creep his expansion, so we can expect to have a little bit more room to breathe. And notice this, notice this. Last game we saw Chaemiko only pull 3 peasants and keep an extra 1 on lumber the entire time so that he had more lumber. Then he called 5 right away. Whereas this game, Sock is doing it a bit different. He called an extra peasant to creep this, but now he's giving them more time to mine because he's going to creep the second green camp solo dolo. So it actually all evens out at the end of the day. Right? All evens out.
Our forces are under attack.
But it makes a difference because for the expansion, Sock's going to go for this expansion, the more difficult one to creep. You're going to actually have to call more militia. So at the end of the day, Chaemiko gets a quicker expansion and has more lumber. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 being called, and 2 back home with a 4th farm, because the fact that we're pulling more militia means we're going to have less lumber and more gold. What can we do when we have more gold and less lumber? Well, we can invest that extra gold into more peasants. So why not get the 4th farm earlier so that we can get maybe an extra peasant or 2, maybe an extra footman, because we're going to be waiting for the lumber to catch up. Which might not actually work out here, as I said it. But regardless, that's generally why we'll get that 4th farm. Hey, Korak5, thank you for the 47 months, my man. Almost 4 years, almost 4 years. Yeah, the lumber thing might not entirely work out, but that is, that's generally why we do it. Let's say. Footman continues to scout. Gonna lose it, who cares? Oh, see, we actually do end up with a little bit of extra gold. We don't have too much gold and too little lumber, but we do have some extra gold, so we can actually build an extra peasant or footman, and we're going to get an extra footman with it. So that's what the 4th farm allows us to do, just because why not? We can still afford the expansion, because our expansion's later, so why not get that 4th farm? That's the difference of the build order. The nice thing about this creep route, as opposed to the one Chaemiko did, there's an advantage and a disadvantage. The disadvantage is the expansion's later, and there's potential to take more economic damage because it's harder to creep. Now we have low peasants. But the advantage is, yes, a creep bounty, that's cool. We get more gold from creeping it. We also get a nice consumable, but importantly, we get quicker level 3. Now, if we remember the build order that Colorful did last game, he went for a very early expansion. Remember that. Remember when we said, oh, let's check what the expansion's at, and, you know, Chaemiko was at a timing where if he was maybe 10, 15 seconds earlier, he actually could have canceled it. So if Chaemiko last game would have done this creep route, and Colorful would have done the same expansion timing, Chaemiko actually could have run straight across the map with level 3 and immediately canceled the counter expansion. So that's the advantage of the earlier level 3. Whereas if you do the quicker expansion but slower level 3, you have to creep a couple of camps before you're able to run cross map and go for that potential expo cancel. Which is cool, which is cool. So that's the advantage of this creep route. But it's not going to actually work out for Sock. He's not going to be able to cancel an expansion because, in fact, LawLiet, being a very strong player, is just not going to go for it, realizing the build order.
Job's done.
Calls militia, expecting to lose some peasants, of course, because his Archmage is going to... Notice, his Archmage is going to try to cancel that expansion, because that's what he's trying to counter with this. So he's calling 4 militia, expecting to lose like 4 peasants, potentially. But he's not going to lose too many.
Our forces are under attack.
And the Archmage just might as well attack the archers. He was trying to attack Wisp, just lowering the Moonwells. It's all good stuff, why not? He's going to lose... He's lost 3 peasants, but he also left 3 militia here. Maybe he lost 4 peasants. So that's what I said. He's at about the threshold of peasants you want to lose. Right? But totally acceptable damage, because you expect to take a little bit more damage when you go for the harder expansion. The later expansion, the more difficult to creep expansion. You expect to take more damage. So he's going to lose 4 peasants. So this, just by default, is going to slow down the timing. And because Sock actually didn't get an expansion cancel here, he might not be in the lead. He might not be in the lead. If he had gotten an expo cancel, he'd be in an excellent position, but he didn't get any expo cancel. So now behind this, we'll just take a look. Building, he's going to be building more peasants. Little bit sloppy on the macro at times, Sock. He should be building peasants at the main base right now. And because of this, he's not going to actually tech at 8 lumber peasants in his main base. He's going to tech at 6, but let's just point out a small error from Sock. He should be building peasants this entire time because he has the gold too, and he needs more lumber peasants anyway before he techs. So there's absolutely zero reason for him to not be producing peasants this entire time. Which is the beauty of this strategy. There's always places to improve. You can always do this strat better. We see the altar flashing, that means Demon Hunter. If you watch my other episode on this matchup, that typically means the Night Elf is eventually going to go for a counter expansion. And this time we get a couple of archers. Lose a couple of footmen, but that's totally acceptable. Lumber mill earlier because, you know, we lost some peasants. We lost 4 peasants. That's 4 times more than we lost last game. And we went for a later expansion. So why not get the lumber mill and the shop before teching? Because we're still waiting for the peasants to be produced, right? And remember, I pointed out, Sock is going to lose 12 footmen this game. He's going to produce 14, he's going to lose 12. But he's going to find some damage. He's already killed 2 archers. He's going to cancel probably both lures. No, he might not if there's an entangle on the water elemental. Yeah, he gets both lures, he gets 2 archers, so good damage, but he's going to lose more footmen for it. Techs on 6 peasants. But the cool thing is, because remember we want about 11 peasants on lumber in total, we can just build those over here. If we have the golden lumber to tech, we might as well tech, because we're going to have enough to build 1 Arcane Sanctum, 2 Arcane Sanctum, Workshop, and Farm. We have enough peasants in our main base to literally build the buildings we need to at tier 2, and then we can build the second and third farm at our expansion with these peasants. So as long as we have enough peasants at our main base to just build the buildings we need to there, we can just build the rest of the peasants at the expo. And then tech whenever we have the golden lumber, which that's what Sock's doing. What's up, gods? How's it going? Which is where just time and experience and being as good of a player as Sock and Chaemiko comes in handy. Because you can make those judgment calls. You know, I'm going to attack with 6 in my main base because I'll be fine.
Job done.
He also bought Boots of Speed, he bought Dust. These are all things that he could afford because his expansion was a bit later. His tech was a bit later. He had a little bit more gold than lumber. These are things that he could afford. Remember, lumber is the thing that we're really lacking. It's not gold, it's lumber at tier 2 that we're lacking. He's going to build an extra tower. A stylistic choice, I suppose. He also builds 1 tower in his main base. This is something Chaemiko didn't do. But he's got to be a little bit safer. Blacksmith comes up. Lumber mill, he's already got the shop, so he's got those 3 things that he needs. He's just power building the blacksmith just to have a little bit more reinforcement in case he gets pushed at the expansion, because note, he's giving a little bit of space to LawLiet right now. Giving him a little bit of space, so there's potential for him to get pushed, so he wants these blacksmiths to be up in front to protect. There's no real reason for him to power build the blacksmith, right? Like, he's not going to get upgrades here until tier 2. So the only reason he power builds is just to have it to protect. And again, continues to pressure. Losing more footmen, yeah, but doing damage. Just continues to produce footmen. I think we're in between footman cycles, but like I said, he builds 14 footmen this game. Just keeps pushing. This is a very well-timed expansion from LawLiet because he does it as soon as he's safe to protect it. Like, Sock's gonna go for the expansion here, but he's not gonna get it. I don't think he gets it. Does he get it? No, yeah, Entangle saves it. And footmen continue to harass, but again, just all buying
Our
space.
forces are under attack.
You want to talk more about ways that Sok could improve? Let's look at his main base. Is there any reason for him to not be producing his Arcane Sanctums right away? Is there any reason for him to not be producing his Blacksmith right away? Let's look. No. Right? So just small errors. And these are errors that even the top humans do. So like, if you're a human player and you're like, oh, my macro sucks, I made so many mistakes this game. The top humans do it too. There's a lot going on. You need to build 3 farms, 2 Arcane Sanctums with 2 peasants on each, Workshop, Blood Mage, you need to continue to pressure, you need to heal up your Archmage, you need to steal the heal scroll. There's a lot you need to do. So it's alright. Even Sok's gonna mess it up here. Totally fine.
Our forces are under attack.
Now he's gonna pay for these mistakes, because LawLiet doesn't let you make mistakes, but it's fine, you know, we don't judge here. This is Footman 13 and 14. Where are all their friends? They're all dead. That's fine. That's fine. And honestly, I think... Okay, he actually loses 13 footmen this game. I think it's fine the amount of footmen he's lost, because let's remember he killed 2 archers. I think I killed the Ancient of War. He canceled both lores. He delayed the expansion quite a bit. Forced a lot of mana.
Job's done.
So Arcane Sanctums are up. The order of things is going to be slightly different for Sok because him and Chaemiko are different players. They have different brains. They do things in different orders. But like I said, Chaemiko should be the benchmark for how you should macro, in my opinion. At least in that last replay. Going to get those 3 farms. 1, 2. He'll get a 3rd eventually. That'll put him at 66. Or it should. Is my math right? Is it checking out? Yeah, 66 he'll be
Job's
at.
done. Job's done.
We already got the heal scroll, so we don't need to worry about this. This was the stage in last game when... Or actually, this is the stage in last game Chaemiko was already pushing. So note, like, just those little bits of damage that Sok took, paired with the fact he went for this expansion creep as opposed to the other one and the 4-farm expansion, Chaemiko was already pushing last game. Chaemiko was already pushing. But Chaemiko did no damage to the economy last game, whereas Sok has. So maybe the delay all evens out. But this is literally when Chaemiko was right here with his full army. Something to think about. Something to think about. But priests are on the way, Adept is on the way, and then Sorks will be built here. Workshop, a little bit forgotten about, which is why he's going to power build it now. But that's alright. He's got his 2 rifles, he's got his 2 priests, he's about to have his 2 Sorks. I think he actually gets a 3rd rifle this game, just because his push is a little bit late, because he forgot about the Workshop, and just overall it was late. What's up, World of Warcraft item? So there's a few things obviously going wrong this game, but still the general idea of get 2 of every animal, get on the boat, and push the expansion. That's the idea. He's also getting some upgrades. He's going to end up with 1-1-1. He's going to have 1-1 on his breakers or footmen. He's also going to have +1 attack on his rifles. This is just a small tip, but it's worth getting. He's going to be forced to TP here, not a big deal. It's worth getting the first upgrade, I should say, of everything first, because they take different amount of times. The first upgrade takes 45 seconds, the second upgrade takes 60 seconds, and the 3rd upgrade takes 75 seconds. So if you're able to get 1-1 for your breakers and then +1 for your rifles, it's better to do that. It's more efficient than to get like +2 for your rifles and then +2 for your breakers, because it takes less time, and you know it's still 1-1 and 1 for the rifles. So that's what we're going to see Sok do, and that's also what we're going to see Chaemiko do next game, is they're going to prioritize getting the first upgrade before getting the second upgrade, which is a good thing to do with human, because you most often have to get different upgrades all over the place. Whereas something like Night Elf, for instance, doesn't have to get different upgrades. They just get the same 2. So that's what we're going to see. Town portal away, more and more delay, which is making this push more and more difficult to do. But these are the things that happen when you play human, when you play 2-base. It's difficult. But still, we have, let's look, we have 2 rifles, 2 Sorks, 2 priests. Our second mortar team should be on the way. Sock chose to not get the flying machine this game because remember he forgot about the workshop. So he's got 2 of everything. Are we ready to go? Pretty much we're ready to go. When does he go this game? He pushes a little bit later. He's going to choose to creep a tiny bit more because the push is already late. But we're pretty close to being ready to go here. Pretty close. We just need to heal up our Archmage. And because we need to do that, Sock's going to creep 1 more camp. It's incredible. And behind this, we're just going to build more breakers. I think he gets a 3rd rifle, right? Does he have a 3rd rifle yet? Yeah, he does have 3 rifles. But don't worry. The world's not going to explode because we got a 3rd rifle. It's totally fine. Totally fine. Absolutely acceptable. Getting close to ready to push. Close to ready to push. Our second mortar team is out. Getting our 3rd mortar team. Getting more breakers. So this is later. Much later. We're already a minute and a half later than we pushed last game. Which is why we're starting to see sort of a difference. 3 rifles, 3 mortar teams, more breakers, more creeping, almost a level 3 blood mage, whereas last game we pushed with level 1 blood mage. Just because we're pushing later. Just because we're pushing later. Is the push still strong? Yes, because we delayed the lures. We're still going to be up by, let's see, 20 supply. Last game we were up by 17 supply, I think. Ivory Towers. Roughly the same amount of militia come across, like 4 or 5. Last game it was 6. Can even get a second heal scroll. It's incredible. So it's the same push, just a little later, a little stronger.
Job's done. Research.
And like, for instance, if we had that 1 flying machine, we could put it like right here. And it would be really good. Because we don't have vision, we don't really see, unless we were to put a unit here, but we could put a flying machine like right over here, and we'd have full vision of, oh, what do you know, the entire Night Elf army. Could be cool. That's why the flying machine's really good. Thanks, Wall Street guy. Level 4 Archmage, kind of nice, a lot of mana. Let's look, what is Sock building behind this? Well, he's almost already 80 supply, but he's, probably be building more breakers behind this, right? As he loses them. As he would lose casters, he would replace them. And if he lost mortar teams, he would replace them. If he lost rifles, he probably wouldn't replace them. He'd probably stick to about 3 rifles. Also nice to get controlled magic at this stage. Maybe even getting Adept for the priest could be nice. These are luxuries we can get when we're close to 80 supply that we don't get otherwise. Flame Strike plus 3 mortar teams is nice to be able to kill the expansion. And that's really our whole goal. If we can kill the Expo with this push, we're totally fine. If we're playing 2 base against 1, we could Town Portal out of here and be totally happy with the result. But this is still a fight we could potentially win, so why not keep fighting? This is why Blood Mage is really good. There could be an argument made that Sock could go Siphon level 2, and I think if it was a Panda as opposed to a Demon Hunter, he would have gone Siphon level 2, Flame Strike level 1. And it's not the easiest fight. Like, remember, last game was much easier, but last game we hit a much quicker timing. Right? So the later it is, the more difficult it's going to be for us, which is why our goal should always be to hit as early as possible, in my opinion.
Our town is under siege.
The nice thing about this, though, is if we do not win on the timing, unlike playing 1 base against Night Elf, we don't just lose the game. No, we still have an expansion. Right? So you might be thinking, oh, you should be hitting as early as possible. Why don't I just play 1 base Rifle Caster all-ins? That's because you don't have a follow-up with those builds. You have to win, essentially, on this push that Sock just did. And Sock didn't win. He killed the expansion, but he hasn't won the game yet. He's still got to close it out. How can he close it out? Well, he can just close it out by getting back up to 80 supply, getting heal scrolls again, and just re-pushing, because he's going to be up by 30 supply instead of 20, because he's on 2 base against 1. So it's all about just macroing up behind us. I mentioned earlier that the army changes a little bit as we get into the late game. I would consider this the late game. After the push doesn't work, we fall back. We go more into like a macro game. When we go into the late game, humans tend to add a third Sork, a third priest, and, you know, a third mortar team, which was already with the army. But instead of having 2 of everything, we try to have about 3 of everything, with adept on the priest, or on the priest and the Sorks, and control magic on the breakers. So we upgrade from 2 to 3. We don't tend to see humans go much further than that caster-wise. 3 priests, 3 Sorks, 3 mortar teams is normally the cap, and then just a big wall of breakers in the front. Yeah? Yeah? What's up, Don Delare? How's it going, man? So that's what we transition into. As we can see, 3 priests, 3 Sorks. I think a mortar team died, but there's a third one on the way. And then these rifles that are left over are just the same 3 rifles that we built earlier. We've just lost 1. 1 breakers, 1 rifles. Any more upgrades on the way? Oh, second armor upgrade for the breakers. And what we have to remember, you might be thinking, oh, why wouldn't we go tier 3 here? There is definitely a lot of value to be gained from going to tier 3. You can get inner fire, you can get frag sharp mortar teams, you can get a paladin third, you can get staff. There's a lot of great things. You can get knights, but really, breakers are pretty good. Breakers are pretty good. Short of the night elf getting mountain giants, tier 2 human army can pretty much do it. Unless they get like a panda level 6 or something like that. Unless they get mountain giants with big upgrades, which is impossible if you've killed the expansion. Breakers are pretty good because, I don't know if you guys know this, but feedback from breakers, I don't know if you're ready for this. Does anyone know how much extra damage feedback does to bears that have mana? On top of the already base damage of breakers. Do you guys know how much extra damage it does? It's a lot. It's a lot. To units that have mana, yes. It does 20 extra damage. It does 20 extra damage to bears. That's a lot for a tier 2 unit. It does 4 to heroes, which fine, you know, they're heroes. But to bears that have mana, and if bears don't have mana, then all you do is take a short fight, town portal out, and fight again, and what do you know? They don't have rejuve to heal everything up. It's a win-win for you as the human. But if they do have mana on their bears, this breaker does 14 to 18 with feedback to a bear that has mana. Oh, all these bears have mana right now. It's going to do 34 to 38. And that 20 is not affected by armor, whereas this, of course, is. But that 20 damage is always going through. So they actually do more base damage than a bear themselves to bears that have mana. So breakers are pretty good. We shouldn't have to worry too much about going tier 3. Because breakers are good unless there's mountain giants. Or really, really high-level heroes, like a high-level panda with an ultimate, or like a metamorphosis demon hunter, something like that. Then it can be rough, of course, with tier 2 human army. Then you kind of need knights, then you kind of need staff, then you kind of need paladin, frag shards, inner fire, but breakers are good. Breakers are good.
Our forces are under attack. Research complete.
So we don't need to worry. And like, there's a lot of things we invest into that we don't immediately see value from if we do go tier 3. It's the tier 3 itself. The paladin takes a minute to come out. Inner fire takes 90 seconds to research. Frag shard takes 60 seconds to research. It takes a long time. We're gonna give the night elf about 4 minutes of time before that tier 3 kicks in. Whereas why don't we just grab double heal scroll again, get up to 80 supply, and just push and try to end the game? That's a much better play. Yeah, tier 3 frag shards is definitely the biggest upgrade you get from going to tier 3, for sure. 100% agree with that. And I would say a position that would make it worth to go tier 3 would maybe be like if you push and you totally fail and you don't kill their expansion, then maybe going tier 3. But the next replay we're going to watch, the last replay for the day, we're going to see Chaemiko actually not break the expansion of the elf and still just stick to tier 2 and make it work. And as we can see, breakers putting in work. Now, when bears run out of mana, to be fair, breakers are pretty bad against bears. But when they have mana, they're owning them. Because they have upgrades. Yeah, let's take a look at the upgrades. He has +1 and of course long rifles. And then he's got 1, 2. He got the first upgrades he got was 1 attack, 1 armor, and then 1 attack, and then he got armor 2. Those were the order of upgrades. Is he getting anything else? Plus 2 attack on the way. So he's prioritizing breaker upgrades because he just doesn't have a. He's gonna have more breakers than he has rifles and mortar teams. I'd say the armor upgrade's especially important for the breakers. Should he prioritize plus 2 attack for the rifles mortars before upgrading the breakers? I think the reason why we saw, and I touched on this a little bit, but the reason we saw him get 1, 1 and then 1, and he also could have gone plus 1 attack for the mortars and then 1, 1 for the breakers, but the reason we see him get all 3 first attack upgrades and armor upgrades, obviously you don't want armor for your mortar teams or your rifles, it's not too important, is because they take less time to upgrade the first than the second. So the first only takes 45 seconds, 45, 45, 45, whereas the second takes 60 seconds. So you get them all quicker, and you actually get the same value from every upgrade, right? In fact, armor upgrades, you get more from the first, because armor has diminishing returns the higher the armor goes, so the first armor upgrade is actually the most valuable of the 3. The second upgrade on breakers versus second, interesting. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I would say I'd probably go second armor upgrade on the breakers, and then second attack upgrade on the mortars, then second attack upgrade on the breakers third, I think. But that's debatable. I think to each his own for that. It's an interesting point though. So there's the first 2 replays. There were some mistakes there, but still the general idea was there. We saw an even later push that time, and we saw that it actually becomes more difficult the longer we wait. That's really what I wanted to show there. So our goal should always be early push, early push, early push, as limited damage to our economy as possible. Because honestly, if you're not stocking Chaemiko, it's going to get really difficult if you don't win on this push. I'll be honest with you guys. It's going to get real difficult. It is not easy to go into the super late game with a tier 2 army against Night Elf. It's very easy to get caught out of position and to just crumble in a fight. You get a hero entangled out of position. The bears get on top of your mortar teams because they did a fork attack, you know. It gets tricky. So our goal should always be what happened in replay 1. Our goal should always be, let's end the game before the 15-minute mark. Let's not go to the late game. Let's not have to go tier 3. Let's not play against a level 5 Demon Hunter, level 5 Panda. Let's end the game right here, right now. That should be the goal. Jumbo Chalk with the 6 months. Thank you. Appreciate you. Good to see you. But we're going to see the daunting task of taking this to the late game in replay number 3. It's going to be a 26-minute long game where this sort of a push fails for a couple of reasons. We'll touch on that. We're going to take a short break first. We'll be back with the final replay of the day. Be right back. All right, we're back. That took a while. I was boiling the kettle. I want another tea. Okay, so we saw the first 2 replays, and you know, we're increasingly going to see some more mistakes. The first game was just beautiful, brilliant from Chaemiko. Sock, couple of errors, but he did a little bit more damage on the harass. Now this third replay, Chaemiko's going to make a few more mistakes. He's going to hit even later of a timing, and Mr. Sini is going to defend quite well. Now, worth pointing out, I was trying to do three different maps, but we did 2 Tidehunter replays, and we're going to do 1 Autumn Leave replays, because unfortunately right now, if the replays come from NetEase, Concealed Hill and Northern Isles just don't work. So that's going to be an unfortunate reality for the next few episodes, probably. I don't know when it will be fixed by. Last time this happened, it was like this for like maybe a month and a half, 2 months. And unfortunately, it's happening again. We're now, 2 maps in the pool. The replays just don't work. And then Last Refuge in this matchup, the Night Elf always goes Beastmaster, so that should be an episode in and of itself. Echo Isles is almost always Warden. So we're really only left with a couple of maps. We're left with Amazonia, Tidehunters, and Autumn Leaves. That's all we have to pick through. So that's why today's episode was on Tidehunters and Autumn Leaves, and that's probably going to be true with a lot of the future episodes, because NetEase replays are just broken, unfortunately. So that's just a little side note, in case you're wondering, where's Concealed Hill? Because Concealed Hill is a really good map for a lot of matchups to learn a lot from, and it would have been a really great map for this episode too, but is what it is. Replay 3 will be on Autumn Leaves. Chaemiko versus Sini. We're just going to breeze through this replay. It's about 26 minutes long. I think we've already covered the majority of what I wanted to talk about today. So we're just going to see what his follow-up into the late game is. The timing's going to be relatively the same. The pressure's going to be kind of the same. He's going to get defend this game because I think he takes a little bit too much damage, and he's up against maybe a couple of extra archers. There'll be a couple of different things. But we're just going to breeze through it. We're just going to, tag some important differences and, just reinforce what we've already talked about. There's going to be nothing too crazy in this replay. It's just going to go a little bit later than the last two did. It's going to be replay 3. Can you clarify what you mean by broken replays? They don't load. They say the map is missing or something like that. And I'm not the only one, because there was actually a Reddit thread with like 20 comments this week saying the same problem. So unfortunately, they are just kind of broken. I did try for hours and hours and hours to make them work. But they don't work, at least on normal Warcraft. If I go to Netties, maybe they'd work, but I don't want to be watching replays on Netties for this show. You think you could fix that? I mean, I have tried, as have other people, but if you have a solution, definitely let me know. Let's go to replay number 3 for now, though. Here we go. Yeah, text me. Yeah, let me know. That'd be awesome if you have a solution. That'd be great. So here is Chaemiko, and here is Sini. It's going to be all the same. All the same. We're going to see that 3-farm expansion from the first game. Remember the 5 footmen, 5 lumber peasants, 5 at the expansion, 5 on gold at home. The 5 of everything, 30 out of 30 supply. The expansion counts as essentially our 4th farm and our 5th farm. That's going to be the build we're going to see from Chaemiko this game. Which I think, in my opinion, is the best way to play this. I don't think the build from Sock was the best way overall to play, but it's good to have variability. It's good to not do the same thing every game, because there's always going to be counters when you do the same thing consistently. So that's why it's good to do what Sock also did last game.
Job's done.
Yeah, if you could go into the replay file and change the map name. I'm not sure how you're supposed to do that, though. I think Orc wins, PogChamp. Quite nice that the War 3 booster wasn't bugged today either, because we've had issues where the heroes are on the wrong sides. Maybe I've cursed it now, and we're going to have that, but we'll see. We'll see. This footman, of course, going to go across and scout. Nothing new.
Job's done.
We'll tag all the similarities, and we'll tag all the differences. There won't be a ton of differences until we get to the late game, in which, that'll be something new. Archmage will come out. And we're going to go for an immediate expansion this time. We're just going to call 4. And we're going to have every other peasant on lumber the entire time. So these 2 guys are working away the whole time. And it's going to work out. Our expansion is going to be able to come up pretty much as soon as we're done creeping this. But we're going to take some economic damage this game, of course, because this isn't going to be a perfect game. Or else I would have shown this instead of Tidehunters. Footman going to scout. We don't see the Ancient War here, so we must know that it's here at this stage. Maybe it could be at the shop, but it's here. We know. We see it's a keeper. We see it's archers. We know what the creep is. We, in fact, did this build order from the Night Elf perspective, this 2-archer Ancient War creep. So we know exactly what's going on right now. Once these militia run out, we'll be pretty close to being able to afford the expansion. Just going to mine, 8 lumber or so. But see, it works out pretty well. Works out pretty well, this build. Note 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on lumber. 28 supply. We could get 1 more footman. That would be our 5th. So nothing new here. And we're gonna be harassed. So our expansion's gonna be delayed due to the harass. But if it hadn't, we'd already be building it. But as I like to point out, we're not against computers. We're against real-life people, and real-life people like to make our lives difficult. So we can't always be as rigid as we'd like to be. So we're gonna lose a couple of peasants. 2 for now. But what's important is during this harass, we're putting damage on the keeper consistently, so that when he goes back to heal, he can't get full mana as well as heal. Replacing those peasants we lost, moving these peasants over to help power build the expansion. We want to power build it with 5, just because we want it as early as possible. And that's how much lumber the build allows us to invest, is a 5 peasant power build. Sini was trying to come and summon treants here, but since he was pressured off from this side of the trees, he didn't want to summon them from here because they would have just been blocked by the footmen, and then the peasants would have just gone up here, and the treants would have done nothing, and it would have wasted his last 100 mana. So that's why he didn't summon more treants, and instead just staffed back home to use his Moonwells. This is around the time we'd like to creep level 3, remember? But because of how Autumn Leaves works, if we look around at the creep camps, yeah, we could creep this, and we could creep this. I'm not sure if that's exactly level 3. I think it's a little bit shy of level 3. Regardless, though, this is a lot of creeping to do, and this is a little bit out of position with the expansion, a couple of things. It's just more difficult to creep level 3 on this map than other maps when we go for this expansion and not this expansion. And Autumn Leaves is kind of unique in that, which is why I almost like when humans go for this expansion, because look, 1, 2, 3, we have this shop even, we have a lot of camps close by to creep safely while securing our expansion. Well, that would require Moon to have been famous before the game was ever made. And also Moon is Korean. Staff of Teleportation. And nothing crazy, right? More peasants being built. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to tech as soon as we can. And then we'll get the 10th, 11th, 8th, 9th, all those peasants back here. So we'll have 4 here.
Our forces are under attack.
Why does he choose to go for the more forward expansion versus the safer one at the main base? Well, the thing is with going for this is you kind of have to, it's more expensive. Because you have to call more militia, so the expansion's actually later, similar to what we saw in the last game. Whereas this expansion, you can creep with just 5 peasants, and you can get the earliest possible expansion. That's why he goes for this one and not this one. But I think there's an argument to be made for the other one. Now we're trying to get level 3, and then we'll keep pressuring with our footmen. But because our level 3 has been so delayed, I think that's why he chooses to get defend this game. Because we're not sacrificing so many footmen, we're not just diving headfirst into the Night Elf base, we're actually trying to be a little bit more passive, and we're going to try to eventually get level 3 before pressuring, which is why I think he gets defend this game, and not in the other games. But still, remember, he gets Blacksmith, Arcane Vault, Lumber Mill, all at the same time, essentially. Lumber Mill was built first, then shop, then Blacksmith, but regardless.
Job's done.
Getting that extra farm as well that normally we were using on the other maps to block our peasants off. This is our 4th farm. Remember, we're using this on Tidehunters to secure our expansion, make it a little safer. We're still trying to get level 3, which is tough.
Job's done.
Very delayed level 3, which is unfortunate. It could leave us open to harass, which we may lose some peasants in the future. Still producing footmen, gonna get defend, which is going to delay our timing, but we have a decent number of footmen where defend is pretty valuable. And again, like I said, we're not just going headfirst into the Night Elf base, we're creeping a little bit. You might be wondering, well, if we're creeping, we're not pressuring the expansion, why isn't Sini pressuring our expansion? Well, he may be doing that if he went for a Naga or a Tinker, but this game, he's going for a Panda, which he's creeping up right now. So the Keeper is going to come and try to harass, but the whole army, the archers, aren't necessarily able to because he's trying to power creep up a Panda. Another thing this pressure allows us to do, though, is stop them from creeping their second hero, which is what we saw in the first replay. We saw Colorful force him to going a Naga because he actually couldn't creep. So the fact that our level 3 is so delayed, the fact that we give the Night Elf so much space, not only leaves our expansion open to harass, but it also lets him get Panda level 2 for free. And it's in fact going to allow him to get Panda level 3 for free this game. So a couple of errors, but that's just the way Autumn Leaves tends to work out, because it's tough to get level 3 Archmage, tougher than other maps. Regardless, tier 2 is up. Power building, this peasant's going over to power build. Here's the workshop, here's the blood mage, and remember we need to build not 1, not 2, but 3 farms when we can, because or else we're not going to be able to break upkeep. 3 farms will put us at 66 maximum supply. Note the defend, not seeing a ton of value. Not seeing a ton. Heal scroll there, not really even too necessary, but not a perfect game, which is why it's the last replay we're watching. But still, all the macro is good. We need to build those farms still. Let's not forget about our farms, guys. Let's not forget about them. But it's not going to supply block us for now.
Our forces are under attack.
And I think at the end of the day, Chaemiko loses about 7 footmen this game.
Job's done.
So it's not 12, it's not 13, but he's still invested into defend, so he's lost quite a few. Rifles now coming out. 2 priests coming out, so 2 priests and then 2 sorks, and then 2 rifles. And then he's going to get a flying machine and 2 mortar teams, 2 of everything. Now you guys might notice a mistake in the macro. What are we forgetting about? Anyone? What are we forgetting about? We're not going to forget about the flying machine. He's going to build that. We're forgetting about something, which is one of the mistakes, one of the bigger mistakes in this game. Pushing our vulnerability to try to steal this, but we're not going to be able to get it. We're trying to delay that panda level 3, but we're not going to be able to. Lumber picking upgrade? Not necessarily. We didn't get it in the other games. I think we'd only ever get that if we really needed it. Like if we were really low on lumber. In fact, what we're forgetting about is even more essential. We don't have a depth for the priests. We don't have Dispel. We're going into the 2 breakers, so we're still going into 2 of everything. This is going to be our second rifle. And we've already got range for our rifles. We're going to go into 2 mortar teams. We got 2 breakers on the way. We don't have Adept. Which, in replay 1, which was the benchmark for how to macro, we had Adept long before we had Sorks or mortar teams out. Long before.
Our forces are under attack.
Now, I think this is another mistake. So the Adept is the first mistake. I think this is a second mistake. I think Chaemiko actually wanted to push right now, but he accidentally aggroed the creeps with his breakers. So he had to use the militia to just creep this camp, which delays his push by about 30 seconds. Note right now, 10:25. This is exactly the same time that we pushed in game 1. But we had Adept. We had 5 footmen left over. We had, okay, we still have heal scrolls here. We had Adept, we had 5 footmen left over, and we, that's pretty much it, right? And our push was a little bit earlier, because now we're going to be delayed. Yes, this is going to be about a 30-second delay. Because 10:20 or 10:30 is when we were pushing the expansion last game. It was 10:30.
Job's done.
Because we might have to recall these militia now, right? And in fact, we're going to recall the militia to go. Ivory towers, though, that's going to be nice. We got double heal scroll. This flying machine is going to see a lot of value. Mortar team's on the way. And behind this, of course, we're just going to produce breakers. And note, what the push being delayed by 30 seconds also does, it allows the Keeper to come in and summon 1 set of treants. Whereas if we had gone right when we meant to, we would have actually met the Keeper in transition. What's the flying machine for? We'll see. The flying machine is actually very important this game. But it's always important just for in case a shadow meld, in case there's a cloak of shadows, and it's going to be very important for the vision over the trees this game.
Our forces are under attack.
I'll show you soon. So here's the push, albeit about 45 seconds too late because of these couple of delays. The militia are also very late. So this timing isn't as clean as the first game.
Job's done.
And because of this timing is actually not going to work. But it's also due to the fact that we didn't pressure early on. As we can see the panda, we can see up here the panda's level 3. But remember the first game, not only was our timing quicker, but also we didn't allow Colorful to creep up a secondary hero because we were continuously throwing footmen into his base. We were town portaling out, we were healing up and immediately pressuring. Whereas this game, we kind of ran around a little bit, we crept for a little bit too long, we were a bit too passive, and we allowed him to get panda level 3, and our timing's late. That's why this isn't going to work. That's why. Yeah, the camera's zoomed in because this isn't a War 3 Champions game, this is a NetEase game. So there's no zoom feature. Towers coming up in the back, those are ivory towers. No Adept for this Entangle yet. It's not done. So the Entangle, the Treants are going to have full value. Yeah, and we're going to see that Flying Machine come into play pretty soon. I'll point it out when we see it. It's nighttime now, so it already helps if there's a Cloak of Shadow. Well, Cloak of Shadows is always, but it always helps against the archers, of course. Let's just point out what behind this he's macroing. Just more breakers, right? Not even anything extra, just more breakers, because that's all we can afford, right? Just like replay number 1, that's all we can afford. Just breakers behind this. This is where the Flying Machine, I believe, comes into play.
Upgrade complete.
As we can see, oh, look at this. And this Flying Machine can just stay here, and then we can fortify this position, and the mortar teams don't have to attack ground. They can, in fact, just directly target the Entangled Goldmine, which means they do more damage. So the Flying Machine is going to come into play, and now we have an even stronger positioning just because of one supply unit. And we're good against the Shadow Meld, all that stuff. We could move it over to, like, here for more vision, over here for more vision. Every time we fortify a positioning, we can use this Flying Machine to give us vision. Tons of value. Big potion and invulnerability to stop the Siphon. This is going to make it very difficult for us. And the supply is even. So this push is going to fail. Because it was late, because the Panda is level 3, the Panda has good items. And we didn't do any damage. Remember, even though the push was late in the second replay, we delayed lures. We made him repair his expansion. We killed some wisps. We killed a couple archers. This game, I think we killed 1 archer. That's it. No wisps forced to detonate. No delaying of the second hero. None of that. Now, I think that heal scroll was pretty well on time. It was he definitely milked it, but I think it was still good. That was also a very nice TP by Sini, because he was stuck in what Neo likes to call a slow trap. He couldn't get out because he doesn't have any dryads, and the only way to get out without losing a bunch of bears is the town portal. The Flying Machine gave him vision over the trees code so that he can attack the gold mine.
Job's done.
Well, note what the upgrades are. 1-1, 1-0, and then he's going for the second armor upgrade, just like Sock did last game.
Forces are under attack.
Touch on your point again, Dondelare. So now we're at a stage in the game where our push has failed, so we do have to go into the daunting task of going kind of into the late game, which is difficult. In most situations, as like an average skilled player, you're probably going to lose in this situation if the Panda's getting close to level 5, if you haven't killed their expansion. Which is why, again, I would recommend you really try to kill their expansion with that push. What about Blizzard instead of Water Elemental? It might be worth a retrain. We don't actually see a retrain from Chaemiko this game. It's always nice to have a Water Elemental as a frontline, and there's not a ton of Dryads. Like, how many Dryads is there? In fact, there's no Dryads, and what Dryads there are, they're going to be killed by mortar teams quite easily. So Water Elementals are still pretty good to have a bit more frontline. It's not like they're bad. But Blizzard could still be argued to be better, for sure. Why isn't he using Dispel and Treants? Well, for one, he didn't have Dispel for a long time. Now he has it. He's also going to start using Control Magic on Treants, though. But yeah, he actually forgot his Dispel this game. For a long time. But yeah, and also, he's very low mana, which is why he's going to get a third Priest soon. In fact, does he already have one? No, he doesn't have one. He's got a third Sork, but no third Priest. Going to lose Blood Mage. And no, this is really hard, right? These fights are very difficult. Not easy at all. It's winnable, but it's not easy when you get to this point. Yeah, he does get Control Magic Dark eventually. Very soon. No, he's not tier 3.
Our forces are under attack.
Gets a little bit scared, TP's away. He's got 1, 2 upgrades. He's got 1-0 for the mortar teams. He's going to get the Blood Mage back. And he's going into
Research
He's got
complete.
1, 2, 3 Sorks, and he's going to go into a third Priest pretty soon here. There's the third Priest. He's getting Adept for the Sorks. So he's preparing for the late game. I think he just finished Control Magic. Yeah, and you definitely need to get scrolls. That's why he gets the Staff of Teleportation, so he can actually, in the late game, grab scrolls and staff to the army, so he's never out of position for grabbing scrolls. But this is going to be what his army ends up being. He's going to get a third caster, both priests and sorks, and he's going to go into a third mortar team, eventually a fourth mortar team. He's going to get lots of upgrades. He's going to get adept on the sorks. He's going to get control magic on the breakers, and he's just going to continue to fight with ideally double heal scroll. And the cool thing about continually fighting against Night Owls, of course he can't fight right now, he doesn't have his Blood Mage, is since you're using breakers to burn all the mana on their bears, then they can't use Rejuve, so they have to use Moonwells. Eventually the Moonwells run out, and what do you know? You have Brilliance Aura and Priests. And when you slow a bear, they're slowed for a very long time unless they're detonating wisps. So the more often you fight as the human in this position, the better it's going to be for you. It's just important to continuously fight, which is why we see Chaemiko's not even creeping right now. There's red camps on the map. He could buy a TP and go for a red. He's not really going to do that very often. He's, in fact, not going to creep, I think, until his main runs out. Then he's going to creep this expansion. He's just going to continuously fight because he knows if he gives too much time to Sini, then Sini's going to have Fairy Dragons, he's going to have Mana Pot, he's going to have full mana on all of his bears for Rejuve, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time. But if he fights over and over again, eventually, he's not going to be the running out of steam, it's going to be the Night Elf. And that's just sort of how human works. If you can extend the fights for a long time, it's going to be better for the Night Elf. Or better for the human. It'll be better for the human. Because of Priests and Brilliance Aura and slow. I think eventually he'll kill the panda with the Yonk, but I mean, as long as the panda doesn't have mana, that's your main concern, is getting good siphons on the panda. And again, I think an argument could be made to go Siphon level 2 over Flamestrike level 2, but it seems to be consistently Flamestrike level 2 over Siphon.
Gold mine is running low.
80 supply gives 80. No, we're not fighting without heal scrolls. We have 3 heal scrolls. Always, if we don't have heal scrolls, we're not fighting. At least 2 of them, against the panda especially, but pretty much always. Now we have control magic. Note that was a blue treant. So we have all of our upgrades we could have. We don't have +2 on our mortar teams, but we have 2 armor, we have adept on everything, we have control magic, we have a triple heal scroll. This is about as strong as we can get on tier 2. And as long as we out-sustain, the panda's out of mana, the bears are running low on mana and health. And we end up being pretty healthy because we have triple heal scroll and we have priests in the back. Yeah, that wasn't the best breath. This is a game-losing fight from Sini, absolutely. He's also got very low lumber. Mistakes from both sides, undoubtedly. But, yeah, that wasn't the greatest fight. And we just keep fighting. Remember, there's still 2 reds on the map. 2 reds available. There's still 2 reds. This is a very valuable camp. There's plenty of creeping to be done. But we're just pushing. Because our goal is still to break this expansion. That's a good breath. And we do kill the expansion. And of course, I suppose it's worth mentioning, the Night Elf has to back away and heal. They can't heal during the fight because you have control magic with the breakers. They can't rejuve in front of you. So they have to back away and heal up, but then you just keep fighting them. So they can never really heal up. And look, bear, completely out of mana. What are the other bears at? Well, there's no bears left. The Moonwell's dry. The panda has barely any mana. And look at the human army. Almost full health on everything. Full mana on the Blood Mage. This is just why this is such a good army composition paired with the Blood Mage. I don't know how this human army would deal with MGs. Yeah, you would have to tech tier 3 against MGs. But still, I mean, Breakers aren't terrible against Mountain Giants. They're not, like, awful. But there does come a point when you kind of need Frag Shards and you need Knights against Mountain Giants. But the thing is, if the Night Elf was planning to go for Mountain Giants, and you were continually pushing like this, you could probably be at an advantage. Because we see, Sini this game never really stopped producing. Until this point. He's low on lumber, or was. And still we were able to eventually break him. They're not the best, though. They're definitely not the best against Mountain Giants. I think tier 3 would be needed if there was like more than 2 Mountain Giants. But Flame Strike's still pretty good against them as well. Like, there are counters. But it's important to not give the Night Elf a ton of space. You don't want them to get Chimeras, you don't want them to get a ton of Mountain Giants. You don't want to allow them to creep too much, you don't want to allow them to get on 3 bases, have Fairy Dragons. We don't give them space. No space allowed. We TP away, but our goal's already been accomplished in that we've killed their expansion. The main bases are out, so the Tree of Eternity is going to be walking. But still, we're going to be at least 1 base against 0 for a little bit, and what do you know, as soon as our main base runs out, that's when we finally decide to creep.
Our town is under siege.
Yeah, constant pressure is going to make it hard for them to go MGs, and you're making them detonate Wisps all the time, which is why the lumber of Sini was so low for such a long time. Level 5 on the Blood Mage, Pendant of Energy, creeping not so bad after all. And we're going to build another expansion. And we're just going to TP back home. And this game is good as done. Note Siphon level 3 at level 5 Blood Mage. And the only break we gave ourselves was to go creep up that expansion. We're not going to go creep a red, right? We're not going to go creep the greens. We're just going to keep pushing. Yeah, the Tree of Eternity walking. There's almost an argument to be made that you should never walk that Tree of Eternity, and you should instead, if you have the gold, just invest in a slow Tree of Life, but in this game, it was the only option. So it's not easy. Definitely not easy. But doable on tier 2. Breath is good, but Siphon level 3, and of course if you stop the Night Elf from being on 2-base economy, they can't afford mana pots, they can't afford anti-magic potions, they can't afford heal scrolls themselves, they can't afford town portals to get out of the slow trap that we saw earlier. There's a lot of things that Night Elf needs other than just a lot of bears, right? And that's what killing the expansion disallows him from being able to get. Night Elf not have Nature's Blessing? I don't know, let's find out. He did not. Which, of course, would be useful for the Treants, but not a perfect game, of course. And pretty much waiting for the GG at this stage. Didn't really get any more upgrades. We maybe could have got more upgrades, but we weren't on 3 bases ever, so... We lost a lot of peasants in the mid-game, so our lumber hasn't been too great.
Our gold mine has collapsed.
And again, we're still getting at least the heal scrolls that we can afford, because if we don't have heal scrolls, the panda might just kill every single unit. And then maybe he kills every single unit, gets level 6, and what do you know, panda level 6 counters breakers really hard, so... Always make sure you have heal scrolls. Don't fight without them. Especially against panda, but pretty much always. Is that flying machine still alive? Oh, it is still alive. Wow, the value. 1 flying machine built, it's still alive 26 minutes into the game. And Siphon level 3 is extremely good, and GG is called. And there's the final replay of the day. So I showed that to you because there's always going to be the question. Realtor Ninja, thank you for the 19 months. Appreciate you, man. How's it going? There's always going to be the question of, okay, but what if I don't win with this 12-minute Noah's Ark push, right? What if I don't win? And there's generally what you can try to do. Continue to be aggressive, macro into that sort of 3-caster army with extra mortar teams, get some more upgrades, always fight with heal scrolls, and just continually pressure and push that expansion as much as you can. That's probably the best case scenario follow-up. You know, worst case is they get into Mountain Giants, you're forced to go tier 3, you're forced to get a 3rd base, and then again you're in Wacky Town and it's difficult, but that's why this matchup is really deep and difficult, and we can only cover one small fraction of it at a time. But that's cool. Hope you guys learned something. Are there any questions before we finish up for the day? Any questions? As I said earlier, replay number 1, really the one you want to focus on, though. Really the one. That is the super dankness, as we like to say in Canada. That first replay. Can all units have backpack? No. I think every unit other than mechanical units gets backpack. And workers. Not workers or mechanical units. Because mortar teams can get backpack, right? Here, I'll here. Not air, yeah. Let's see if mortar teams can. Let's see if mortar teams can. Here.
Job's done. Upgrade complete. Job's done. Job's done.
Let's see. Let's see.
Complete. Job's done.
And they can't. So apparently no siege units, no air units, no workers. But like everything else can. Everything else can. Like if I do this. What's up, Victor?
Job's done. Job's done.
Everything else should. I'm not gonna do this for every race, though.
Job's done. Job's done.
So backpack. Oh, I don't have tier 3. I don't have an altar. I don't doubt knights. I think Kodo's the only unit that can have 4 slots. I think Kodo's the only unit that can have 4 slots.
Upgrade complete.
Oh, that's a lot of knights. Yeah, 2 slots. Yeah, so I think Kodo's the only thing that gets 4. And then siege, mechanical, and like let's
build more farm.
Farm still. Siege, mechanical, and workers. I'm quite sure. Let's see. If tank has backpack, I'm gonna lose my mind. No, they don't. Okay. Yeah, Kodos have 4 slots, so the only unit with 4 slots. And that's it, right? That's it. Yeah. Of course, air units wouldn't have it. So that answers that. Are there any other questions, guys? Any other questions? Yeah, militia had backpack and peasants didn't. Yeah, that'd be wacky. That'd be wacky town. What's up, AKM? Curious, are there plans dispelling summons to give... yeah, when you dispel summons, you get experience. Different summons give different amounts of experience, for instance, and depending on the level of the summons, they give different amount of experience. Like a skeleton from Undead gives 12, a wolf level 1 from Farseer gives 20, a water elemental gives 42, so they give different amount of experience, but every summon gives experience. Do Spirit Walkers have backpack? Yes, they do have backpack. Can you purge the Infernals? No, they are immune. What about this weird farm positioning next to the racks in the early game? Are there any reasons for that one slot between the 2 farms next to racks? Don't your units get stuck? Was that in one of the replays, you mean? Question, how do I enjoy playing Warcraft? 2v2, off race, 4v4. And then on occasion, 1v1 try hard. That's how you do it. Why does my bluff always get stuck? Why don't every pro human use one fly machine every game? It would be very OP. You can check for shades too. I think most often they do. I think it's really common. I think really, really commonly used. As a good rule of thumb, I think it's worth doing. But it's not like it's free though. It takes a little bit of resources. It takes I think 15 seconds to build. So, and an original recording replays. You already mentioned my post on Reddit. Oh, that was your post on Reddit. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's screwing me over too, man. Yeah, well, let me show you. Let me load up a standard replay because you're asking about base builds. So let's go. Now I'm not a human player, so my base builds aren't going to be perfect. But let's talk about it a little bit. Where's a good map here? I'm not a human player. But you of course mean like let's cheat again. So the standard way to build a base would be like you build a farm here. Right? And then you build like an altar tight against the trees, right? And then you'd build like another farm here. Right? And then you build like a barracks tight against the trees, right? So that way, if a hero wants to come in, so this would be like the general way, right? Your base would be blocked. It's blocked here, and these units are against the trees. Or what you might do is you might move this altar up a slot so that your hero can get through this sort of a line. Whereas right now it actually can't. Right? But what you're saying is maybe if you have rifles, and you want to build rifles, because of course footmen would be able to run through this freely, as would ghouls and stuff. They can run through all this. But if you want to go for rifles, you might build a rifle and then make it stuck in the back of the base. That's the downside of this base build. Yes, and that's a little bit annoying at times. The best way to deal with this, as a human player, is to actually shift your rally points. So if I want to rally something by right-clicking on my building, I can actually hold shift. I'm holding shift now, and I can rally things to multiple places. So now if I build a footman, it's going to go to all those places, one after the next. Oh. Yeah, see. So what you do with rifles, so they don't get stuck, because of course, like, say my hero is, where's a good spot? Because if my hero is, for instance, like right here, and I have it rallied to my hero, this might not work, but say I just have it straight rallied to my hero and I build a rifle, it might get stuck. It doesn't this time, but like if my hero was like here, it would. So the best way to deal with this for rifles for a human player is to rally it this way, and then use that shift, and then shift right click to your hero. And now the rifle will go here, and then it will go to my hero. And that's 100%, you'll never mess it up again. Same with if I want to build a secondary hero, I rally here, shift rally to my hero. And then it will always go here and always go to my hero, and it's impossible to mess it up. So I want to get my blood mage, don't have a farm. So that's how you should always do these rallies. There's no reason if you're a human player you should get rifles stuck. So shift right here. And by the way, if you're also wondering, there's a whole video by I think Centauran on YouTube. He covered this. But like if you're wondering how rally points work, no matter what the building is, there's 4 locations that a unit will pop out of a building, and I believe it goes counterclockwise. So it starts here, in the upper right of the building. Let's see, or actually, yeah, it starts here, and then I believe it goes counterclockwise. It next prioritizes this position, next prioritizes this position, next prioritizes this position, and it just goes around. If this spot's blocked by like a unit or something, if this spot's blocked, then it will go around to the next spot. So like for instance, like right here at my altar, maybe this spot and this spot's blocked by a farm. So the only position it could come out would be here, which is why I rally it right there and then shift. Maybe this spot would get me in, this spot's blocked by the trees, so it would go down here, and this spot might be blocked by this farm, so I rally there. Take that. Hope that answers your question. Any other questions? I think I'm right about that, but regardless, it is like the sort of the corners of each production building. Is it top right? Where's default? Is it bottom? Is it bottom right or top right, Victor? I don't know. There's some default, and then it goes counterclockwise around. But regardless, you know, you should just rally it to the corner that's free. Oh, bottom left? Okay, so it goes bottom left, bottom right, upper. Okay. So if you leave it, you're almost always going to get blocked. Yeah. But yeah. So just rally to the corner that you is free, and then to your hero. You'll never get another rifle stuck again. Pretty much humans the only race that needs to do that. Sometimes undead needs to do that because they get their fiend stuck if they're doing their goldmine block with a crypt. Same with their heroes. They might do a goldmine block with their altar. Night elf doesn't need to because they can uproot their buildings. Orc doesn't need to because they build their base open. Yeah, so that's that. Cool question. I've never actually had to show anything in-game before. Maybe I should do that more often. Go into game and show stuff. That's fun. I enjoy that. I mean, third farm being placed next to the second farm next to the racks. I think overall, you won't get your rifle stuck as long as you just follow that, regardless of what your base build looks like. All right. I'm going to go eat some food, and then I'm going to go play music with my band in front of people. That's going to be fun. And then I'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific for 4 Players Gold Cup. That's also noon Eastern or 6 p.m. if you're in Europe. PogChamp. That'll be that. Of course, shout out to the sponsor of the stream, CORSAIR, !CORSAIR in the chat. You can get 10% off at checkout with the coupon code Back to Warcraft, the name of the channel in the URL. You can use that coupon code. You can get cool things like these headphones. They have computer parts. They have keyboards, mice. They have lights. They have stream decks. They have tons of stuff. Go check them out. Support the people that support us. And the people that support us are also over at our Patreon. ! Patreon as well in the chat. Shout out to you guys. The 500 euro Golden Goat patron, of course, as always, Knubbie Quakes. Thank you so much. The 50 euro Midas tier patrons, Toxie, Grinchy, JGats123, Enpadru, Scription, and Teggy, and the 25 euro Profiteer patrons, Mr. Armand VB, Burning Blades, Dondalare, and KMS3D. Thank you, guys. And we also have a highlight channel, ! Highlight, in the chat. You can check that out. I think I'm in one of them. I think it's Hitman losing to Razorman is on the highlight channel. Sorry, Victor. Had no part in that. All I did was cast the game. And until tomorrow, we'll see you guys. We will see you guys. Have a good day. Have some fun. Play some human versus elf. Read the Bible. And praise the Lord. See you guys tomorrow.